Microphone check, school board special meeting, June 22nd, 2026.
Good afternoon. The Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education special regular meeting for Monday, June 22nd, 2026 will please come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good evening, colleagues. Paras Bendy,
Here.
Sheila Pryor,
Here.
Heidi Cater,
Here.
Valentina Ayers,
Here.
Dan Ginestra. Dan Ginestra is present. Alicia Little,
Here.
Millen Sahoni.
Present. Thank you. We have a quorum. Please rise if you are able to recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome, everyone. We are glad you could join us this afternoon. Under normal circumstances, today would be the work session of the board. However, on June 8th, the board had a work session in lieu of the regular board meeting for a workshop on board self-evaluation. That's why today's meeting will be the regular board meeting. If you wish to speak during the audience opportunity to address the board, please fill out a form placed at the back of the room and hand it over to our district admin assistant, Amy, sitting to my right. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed as a consent agenda item and addressed. This is true of meeting agenda as well. The consent agenda and the meeting agenda items are listed in the materials. The recommended action is to approve the agenda and the consent agenda items. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Colleagues, Paras Bendy,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor,
Yes.
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers,
Yes.
Dan Ginestra. Dan Ginestra votes yes. Alicia Little,
Yes.
Millen Sahoni.
Yes. Thank you. We have an agenda. It's a big packed agenda, so please be patient. Next item on the agenda is recognitions, and I will join Dr. Anderson at the podium.
I don't think we have any tonight.
No retiree either. Okay. All right. Nobody to recognize today, though. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Next, we have the audience opportunity to address the board. Amy, do we have anyone to speak? No? Moving along. Good. The next item is the administrative reports and recommendations. First, we have the teaching and learning report. Executive Director Dana Miller will introduce the presenters. Dana?
Yeah, Director Mahoney, did you want to do the superintendent reports first on there, or did you want to start with us? Want us to go? Okay. Yeah.
First, yeah.
Yep, okay, thank you. All right, so at this time, I would invite our peer coaches up to the front, and they will be giving our annual QComp report.
Hello, thank you for having us today and spending some time with us. My name is Christine Mishka. I am a first-year peer coach and transitioning into the Belonging and Achievement Partner Teacher role next year. I was at Sunset and Birchview this year.
My name is Tara Parsons, and it's also my first year as a peer coach. I was previously a 7th and 8th grade language arts teacher at Central Middle School.
Here's our agenda for our time together. We're going to be talking about how we were moving into living through our peer coaching mission. We're going to talk about some peer coaching data within that mission and how that impacted our work this year and some program shifts as a result of feedback from staff. We would like you guys to keep in mind the Center for Educational Leadership visioning pyramid that you see in front of you and how our work was rooted in really grounding through the district's vision for student achievement and experience and how we were able to be with teachers as they moved through each one of these components.
We are going to ground our presentation in our peer coaching mission statement. Would someone from the board please read our mission statement?
I'll go ahead. To cultivate a culture of continuous self-directed learning and growth among our staff through a coaching partnership that focuses on reflective conversations rooted in collective data, with the ultimate goal of positively impacting student achievement and experience.
We'd like to draw your attention to the 3 pillars of our mission statement, those being self-directed learning and growth, coaching partnerships that focus on reflective conversations rooted in data, and our ultimate goal of positively impacting student achievement and experience. Our first pillar that we'd like to give you some information about is self-directed learning and growth, self-directed learning and growth, which is based on feedback from staff of Wayzata schools, very important. They appreciate the ability to direct their own learning and growth. In the peer coaching cycle, there are 2 peer review cycles. Those include a pre-meeting where we meet with the peer coach meets with the teacher or staff member, and we talk about the focus of their observation cycle and their goals. Then we observe the teacher and collect data. And finally, we meet back with the teacher to reflect on the data that was gathered. This year, some exciting self-directed learning that took place during these peer review cycles were a focus on professional learning. This year, teachers received a lot of professional learning on success criteria and also student engagement, and so those showed up a lot in our peer review cycles. Additionally, many staff members strengthened their use of culturally responsive protocols, the portrait of the Wayzata graduate, and basic needs and interdependent learning. Several schools in Wayzata School District have been participating in learning walks with their staff. Those involve staff members observing their peers, and then those staff members bringing their learning back to their classroom or their spaces. And peer coaches really enjoyed working alongside teachers with what they were noticing in their peers' classrooms. And finally, the CEL 5D rubric has guided a lot of reflection in these peer review cycles. Teachers are able to dig into those components of the 5D plus rubric and use it as a tool to learn and grow their practice. Here are some quotes from our peer coaching feedback survey that was given at the end of this school year that highlight self-directed staff learning and growth. Please take a few minutes to review those quotes from staff, and we would love to hear from a couple of you just thinking about how staff self-directed learning and growth impacts students based on what you're reading. Would anyone like to share the impact that staff self-directed learning and growth might have on students?
Sure, thank you. I particularly, I align with that second quote about being vulnerable and reflect in ways that help them identify strengths, opportunities, and for growth and actionable steps. And I've always believed, even in my career, my life, that if I'm not ready for criticism, constructive criticism, then I will never improve. And I think that is one of the ways to identify my strengths, my weaknesses, and then how I can improve. So I think that is very important.
Thank you.
I really like the reflecting on my practice. I think sometimes it's easy to get stuck in a loop of what's kind of working. And I want to hear more about the learning walks. That sounds just like a really cool, open way of engaging with one another. But this just feels like an opportunity to maybe organically see what other people are doing and sort of have a conversation. And it's not a like, hey, this isn't working, fix it, but more, hey, what could I take from what you're doing, or what could you take from what I'm doing type of thing. So, and I think that helps build confidence when you feel like you're helping someone else, but you're also trying new things. So I really like that one.
Thank you.
I would like to reflect as well with a second statement, which feels closer to me. It feels like the person who left this review is trusting that that person can be vulnerable, discuss problem, what he experiencing in order to have growth. So that you are not afraid to disclose some difficulties maybe you're experiencing, but at the same time, it allows you to know what else can be done. At the end of the day, then it helps the student, and actually it helps the teacher to be successful in profession.
Thank you. On our year-end feedback survey, staff 93% of staff positively responded to the statement, I value the choices I have in the peer coaching program to direct my own professional growth. So that was some data we were really excited about, and we plan to build on those successes, continuing to use staff feedback and reflection.
Moving into our second pillar, the reflective conversations that are rooted in data. Up here on the screen, you have a couple of images. As peer coaches, we utilize our time with our colleagues in a couple of different structures. We have cognitive coaching as a coaching structure that we use. It's really our foundational work that we use. And then also pulling in the CEL frameworks with the steps that you see there, and being able to really assist teachers in understanding what their current state is and just the next actionable step. We had a lot of feedback from staff saying that image itself was really helpful, and being able to know that I don't have to do all of the steps even this year, but each little step makes a massive difference for students. Some examples of data that we collected were one of them, a lot of teachers really like student interview responses. So we have opportunities to interview kiddos and get their real-time feedback and information of what it is that they think about their learning and their experience. And we move it right to the teachers, and they make some significant steps right away. So that's one of the ones that teachers really enjoy. Students utilizing that success criteria, a lot of that came forward this year with the professional learning that was embedded from the district, and seeing how they were able to use success criteria in their own personal self-reflective practices, and then how teachers were able to use the students' reflection in their next moves and their next steps. And then a third one we'd like to share is the teacher moves in regards to formative assessment and how they were able to provide feedback within the learning process and not just at the end of the learning process, and what that looks like for teachers and what that looks like for students. Again, we have a few different direct quotes from staff that we would like you to take a look at and determine what was that student impact that happened based on teachers being able to have reflective conversations from their data.
I'll kick us off. I think when there's an opportunity, because I think teaching is a profession that is very busy. And even though you may want to take time to think, you sometimes don't get that opportunity to take time away. And so having these conversations allows you to kind of work it out and talk to somebody and talk out loud. And so I can only imagine that on our students, that has a massive impact, right? Like even if it's something small that you're adjusting within a classroom or how you are relaying information to a student, because sometimes, and you know, parents know this too, your kid or your student may internalize something differently than how you intend it. And so being able to have that conversation with somebody else is just so useful and helpful.
Thank you.
I like the third quote. It basically, to me, it feels like there is that trusted partnership within the team, and everybody is obviously expert in that area. But when you start talking about it, once you get the constructive feedback, there are probably few, I'll call it low-hanging fruits, which are more impactful. So you don't have to overhaul the process. You don't have to engage, admin, but you can work it out within the given constraints, if you will, but at the same time, make those minor tweaks and have those better outcomes. So again, it shows the trust and working together nature within the group. So it's really great to see that.
Thank you.
I can see from that third quote too, I'm gonna go even further, that allows, let's say that you learned something new and then you started practicing and then you have more questions. But with that discovery, you can come to that colleague and say, well, by the way, I tried it, but this is how it goes, so that it will allow to have continual conversation.
Yes, connected coaching conversations has been a big part of our conversation as a team of not living in silos, but really connecting all types of coaching that are available in Wayzata and our own cycles with each one of our colleagues. Yeah, thank you.
I'll go next. Thank you. This has been an excellent presentation. I found myself really reflecting on a combination of 3 and 4, how it can produce fewer surprises when you're talking to, as it lists administrators, and really allow you to improve as well and just make those engagements less stressful.
What I'm seeing here is like real-time feedback that's individualized for the teachers, which is, helpful for the teachers because they get to practice it. And again, there's somebody there that's kind of there helping them with their specific, situation. And that, it's not just one class that they take that, is supposed to be applicable to everyone. This is like very individualized and seems like a really good program.
Thank you. And here is some of our data as a result. So again, in our end of the year peer coach survey, the question was, my peer coach provides me data and feedback that helps me reflect on my professional practices, with a strong 93.9% of staff reporting that they agree or strongly agree. So feels like what we're doing is helping support their needs, and that's what they're reporting on.
Our final pillar of our mission statement is making sure that we have a positive impact on student achievement and experience. Something that we work on with staff through peer coaching is development of a SMART goal or a collaborative inquiry cycle question. We have been noticing that many teams and PLCs have been choosing to collaborate on their SMART goal and their collaborative inquiry cycle, which creates really rich conversations in those professional learning communities, data-focused conversations, and is having an impact on student achievement and experience through that. One example that we are excited to share is from a 7th grade language arts class or PLC at West Middle School. The teachers in that PLC in the past had students individually do a web quest to gain background information on the novel The Outsiders. The PLC developed the following collaborative inquiry question: how does using a culturally responsive protocol during the chunk or chew part of the lesson help students engage in deep learning and engagement? During their first review cycle, During their first review cycle, the PLC had their peer coach interview students to gain a better perspective on their learning needs and which protocols impacted their learning and really engaged them. And then the teachers made a shift away from that individual web quest to gain background information for the outsiders, and instead used a culturally responsive protocol in which students collaborated to do some research into the cars and the music and the culture of the 1960s, and then share that information with their peers. These are some of the reflections from those PLC members. I'd like to highlight a few of them. They said students were more actively engaged and reflective when we used the protocols. Using the protocol created in the moment, or the opportunity for in the moment formative feedback to students versus when they were working completely individually. And then they reflected that allowing themselves to be uncomfortable and changing how they've always, introduced that unit improved outcomes for students.
Okay, we're going to get into an activity. So to process what we just went through with our 3 pillars of our mission, we're going to do a just the headline activity. This is cooperative in nature, so you will be working with a shoulder partner. And it is subjective. We would like to hear from you what you summarize our mission has, how you would summarize our mission and the impact it had on teachers and in turn had impact on student achievement and experience. So how this goes is you on your own are going to jot down just some of the key points that you remember from our presentation so far. When you're ready, you're going to turn to your shoulder partner, share your thinking, come up with a couple, 2 to 3 similarities, and then from there, create a news headline summarizing the impact our mission had on teachers and then intern students. We have allotted 2 minutes for this, but if we need more time, we can definitely do that. But we'll put the timer up there for you. When you are ready, go ahead. Questions before we start? All right, enjoy. We are at the 1 minute mark, just information, keep processing as needed. And when you are ready, feel free to turn to your shoulder partner to share your ideas. Okay, team, if you are ready, or let's go, how many more minutes, or do we need one more minute? You've got it. Okay, we're going to bring it back. And remember, there's no wrong answer because it's your thinking. Any group can start. Feel free.
I'll start with our headline, late breaking news. Teachers and students gain benefit from collaborative learning environment. They can feel free to explore and be vulnerable.
Thank you.
We can try. I haven't said it out loud yet, so it might be bad. Wayzata educators affirm the impact of honest feedback, personal growth, and student achievement with peer coaching.
Thank you.
So we had,
See? Cooperative, feeling good.
yeah, we had collaborative, constructive feedback mechanism and data-driven approach that allows everyone's growth.
Thank you.
Okay, I feel like we're going to end on a bad one. I'm sorry. The survey results show peer coaching is effective at providing a safe space for teachers to improve the student experience.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yes. Each individual approach felt like it wrapped in what we've had in our mission. So collaborative learning environment, explore vulnerability, impact honest feedback, cooperative constructive feedback, safe space. Some of the things I jotted down. Thank you for doing that activity. I hope that met some of your engagement needs.
Right, so just like all of our colleagues, the Peer Coach PLC created a collaborative inquiry question to guide our thinking and our practice this year. The question that we developed together was, how does a peer coach's focused use of probing questions during post-observation debriefs influence a teacher's identification of a high-leverage next actionable step for student learning? So we're really looking at the questions that we are asking during our reflective conversations as peer coaches, and then if how the teacher identifies a high-leverage next actionable step. On our feedback survey, we asked staff, as a result of the work with my peer coach, I have implemented a next actionable step, and we are happy to report that 93.7% of staff responded positively.
Another highlight from our collected data is around this question of, as a result of peer coach process, I have tried new teaching practices, and we've seen an 8% growth, or 9% growth in the past 2 years on this one question. It's been the same question for 2 years. And we felt as a team that our focus of our collaborative inquiry process and how we were able to really dive into the types of questions we were asking and the responses we were getting to be able to move to some new teaching practices. And that showed up in the survey results. And based on our staff feedback and our survey and the verbatim quotes that you guys had seen some of, we have some program shifts that we determined would be beneficial for the peer coach team next year. And we'll highlight a few of them for you here. The first one is refining our CEL practices. So continuing to dive into the visioning pyramid and utilizing that in our pre-conversations, our reflective conversations with our colleagues, as well as the 5D rubric, and making sure that when teachers are naming various components in our conversations that we're showing them, this is where you're at, or where do you determine that you might be at, and it can help inform them of the next actionable step also.
We also identified that we would like to continue to deepen system-wide connections between SMART goals and collaborative inquiry questions, especially helping teachers see some alignment between their goals and the collaborative inquiry cycles and the building goals for student achievement and experience.
Thirdly, as teachers are picking their focus and choosing where it is that they'd like to make their next moves, supporting the staff with the interdependent learning process that we've been focusing on here in Wayzata, utilizing culturally responsive protocols in a more fluid manner in teaching, utilizing basic needs language as a way of being in classrooms with students, and also circling around that Wayzata portrait of a Wayzata grad.
We are going to continue fostering shifts in thinking and practice through intentional questioning with teachers and noticing the impact that has on them determining a next actionable step.
And lastly, something I'd mentioned earlier is those connected coaching cycles and connecting the various types of resources that we have here in Wayzata. We have literacy coaches, instructional coaches, peer coaches, partner teachers are going to be new next year, and ensuring that all teachers feel that they have a wealth of resources at their fingertips, and not forgetting that we are, or not putting us each in silos, but utilizing each other with each other to make the growth that they're hoping to make for themselves.
This is all in service of each and every one of our students as they are with us in Wayzata Schools early learning through transition. This is our
team this year.
Coach team.
All right. Thank you very much for that presentation. Any questions or comments, colleagues? Yes, Pash.
So this is great. On that one chart where I think about 6% of participant surveys, they disagree with the approach. So were there any other thoughts or ideas that were bounced around, or why? And again, it's a smaller percentage. I totally get it. But just curious, were there any other ideas that others had thrown on the table, or anything on top of your head?
As far as feedback from the survey, there wasn't anything like that was obvious that showed up through the verbatims. So there wasn't the reflection was difficult when it doesn't show up.
So no recommendations as such.
No,
folks just responded. Okay, all right, thank you.
Not that we could find.
Okay.
Yeah,
sounds good. Thanks.
Heidi, you go first.
I thought it was interesting how you phrased it, the next high leverage actionable step. Can you speak a little bit about, because like Paras was saying, sometimes there's low hanging fruit and they're simple things to do, but then you can also elevate it and say, okay, I'm going to take a bigger chunk this time around now that I've kind of hit all the things that are right there and obvious. Can you speak to that high impact leverage?
I think that showing teachers the staircase image and helping them really think about the ideal state as it pertains to their goal or the work that they're doing in their classroom or any staff in our district. I think that really helps build the high leverage actionable steps because you're seeing how that gets you to your ideal state.
And sometimes low-hanging fruit can be high leverage. I'm thinking that just because it's there and it might be obvious doesn't mean it won't have high impact for kids. So wherever it's hanging could have the leverage. It just depends on that teacher and those students and that classroom environment.
I think also, Director Katie, over the last 5 or 6 years, as we've been working to align the peer coaching work with the professional learning work of the district, what you're seeing is it's just really exciting to see the work tied. For example, 2 of the images are CEL. So that next actionable step is really the training that we've had through CEL and Coaches Academy and with our teachers to to be able to break down, like, where do we want to get, all students, no gap, right? So what are some of those actionable steps that we can get there? Because sometimes when something seems too large, then we don't take a step at all, right? So really deciding what is a high leverage step. So if a building has a goal, if a district has a goal, what can I as an individual teacher impact that? And so that's really, I think the one stat on, I did a shift in my teaching practice to see that go up 9% is huge, because that says that we're trying some of this work. So through those professional learning days, flex learning days, when we are providing teachers opportunity to learn those things, they're carrying that over into action. And that's just really exciting work.
Yeah, I was just going to comment too, and I'll give a little bit of a historical perspective since I don't have much time to do that at this point. I remember back, I was 19 or 20 years ago when I was in another district and when QComp initially started. And I can recall in the district I was in hearing about the way Wayzata was starting, and it was all focused on professional learning, and it de-emphasized or didn't necessarily focus primarily on the additional compensation that was associated with QComp at the time. And it just really became a model right at the start of this QComp program, and it's had several iterations as it's worked its way through. But I'm reminded of a thought that comes that I think about periodically about how you start matters. And I think Wayzata really started as a leader in this, and it's continued, and it's because it was all grounded in professional learning. And I think that's been a big part of why it's been so successful. So kudos to you for continuing that tradition and keeping it moving forward in such a good way. I think it's really been a great program for us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, another question. I have a question on, I believe it's slide 11 maybe, on the student outcomes. And can you go back to that slide, please? Keep going, keep going. One more. That one, hold on. So student achievement and experience. So have these been created into SMART goals yet, or is that something that's going to be done in the future? And if you have done them, or if you are going to be doing them, how would you connect, how would you relate the result as being the results or the achievement being a result of the peer coaching?
Mm-hmm.
So I always try to connect the two entities, instead of relying on causal ambiguity, so we don't know if, I'm not saying that it's not true, but peer coaching, how do we connect peer coaching to the results we achieve for student outcomes? How do we make that connection?
It's one piece of the puzzle, seems like. Just another opportunity for teachers to engage in a reflective practice independently and with their their teaching community, and their data, as they're in a PLC and having their data-driven dialogue, drives their moves, and oftentimes will drive the cycles that they'll do with us. So they'll be in their PLC, they'll be doing whatever their PLC might be doing to move achievement and student experience forward. And then as they're engaging in coaching cycles, and again, it's just one small piece of a 1,000-piece puzzle, but they'll say, okay, this is what we're doing as a PLC. Now this is what I want to do to help support that work. So that's another supportive factor.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alicia.
I was just going to follow up with that. I mean, I think as I hear you talking about this, and again, I'm new and still learning all of the ins and outs of how this works, but being as somebody who's been in education, it's kind of like parenting at times where you never really have a quiet moment. It feels like you're always around people, but you can also feel really isolated at times. And so this just, I think you can't lose the fact that all these connection points of being able to connect with your peers and other educators, that is going to benefit. I mean, that's benefiting the students just right there, I think, if it's helping our teachers feel supported and not that they're just like on this island alone trying to figure out some things that are coming up. So that's one thing that just kept coming to mind through this whole process is just, I remember the days where you were just like, I don't know what to do and I'm not even sure who to go to ask about this. And so it feels like this is a natural, consistent, built-in opportunity versus waiting for the next, education day. What am I trying to say?
Professional Learning Day.
Professional Learning Day. Yes, it's a Monday. So anyway, that's just something that I was thinking is you maybe can't measure that directly, but I do wonder if that was taken away. I think that would be felt really quickly by the teachers who are clearly saying that this is helpful. So,
And it's not an eval cycle. So that was some of the feedback that we did receive was this is something I get to choose for my own learning from where I know I am as an educator and where I want to go. So that independence in our first pillar really was touched on through a lot of the feedback of this is something I value because it's not within an eval cycle. It's a low stakes, or it's not being leveraged for anything other than my own learning. So
I think to Director Sahoni and to get back to, thank you. They're worried about me Monday too, you can see. To get back to the data piece of it, I think we've talked a lot in here about education being hard because there's not a cause and effect data in education, right? But we do leverage what we know nationally about coaching. So we know that teachers are our greatest resource. We'll talk tonight about some of our budgets, and we know that that's where we put the majority of our money. So we want them to be the best that they can be. And the research is really clear that coaching cycle, job-embedded professional learning is the lever that most greatly impacts student achievement through all the meta-analysis and Hattie's work and so forth. So then to hear that our teachers are saying, 93% of them, I think it was, say, I tried something that I know is a high leverage instructional practice that you taught me is high level. I tried that. Then that's directly tied to the teacher's capacity. And we know that high capacity teachers produce high capacity student results. So that's really where that data comes from in kind of a linear way.
Sure. So that's an indirect way to associate the cause and the effect, right? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Yeah.
thank you for that.
Right. So nobody has any questions. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for the presentation, and keep up the good work. All right. So next we have superintendent reports, and Dr. Anderson will present some policies for approval and some for sunsetting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and staff in attendance. We have a number of policies that are being changed, added, deleted, sunset, whatever the appropriate terminologies might be, all the above perhaps tonight. And attached for review are the following policies for your consideration. Keep in mind and be reminded that we have a policy committee that meets monthly or regularly to review policies and bring recommendations to the school board. And I'm just going to read through the list here and then turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, for recommended action. The policy approvals in the board packet for tonight include Policy 201, Legal Status of the School Board, which was previously listed as Policy 200, renumbered to 201 to match MSBA, and combined with sunsetting Policy 201. And I'll just share that we've been on this mission of renumbering in better alignment with the MSBA policy manual, and Amy Geis has been focused on that and working on that, and we appreciate bringing us into good alignment with that. Policy 202, School Board Officers, was previously Policy 207, renumbering to 202, again to match the MSBA and combining regulations in the policy. Policy 205, School Board Meetings Open and Closed, was previously Policy 210, renumbered to Policy 205, again to match MSBA and combining regulations and policy. Policy 210, Conflicts of Interest, School Board Members, previously Policy 205, renumbering to 210 to match MSBA, and sunsetting two policies which are listed here, Policy 201, School Board Powers and Duties, and 206, Board Organizational Meeting. And before I turn it over to you to recite the recommended action, I might just ask Sheila Pryor if she has anything additional to add about the work the Policy Committee has done as the Policy Committee Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I would like to point out that the sunsetted policies 201, School Board Powers and Duties, MSBA does not have a School Board Powers and Duties policy. It was a repetition of what is in Policy 201, School Board Legal Status, in case anyone was wondering why we were sunsetting that. What was in school board powers and duties has been incorporated into school board legal status. And board organizational meeting, the language from that policy is being incorporated into policy 202, school board officers, so that language is not going away. And then there was some rewording on policy 201 that has previously come before this board for discussion, and we now have the rewording here for your consideration.
Thank you both. So board colleagues, the recommended action is to approve the policies as presented in the attachments and sunset the recommended policies as well. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move.
And you waive the second
Second.
reading?
Do you waive the second reading? Sorry, I waived the second reading.
waive the
Sorry.
second, okay.
Sorry, I
that's
should know
okay.
better.
And do you second, Alicia? Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion? Yes, Valentina.
I brought to attention policy 201, and what we used to have, it's just a friendly reminder. We are sunsetting the language which states that the school board is a representative body elected by the citizens of a district to provide for and oversee the operation of the public schools as mandated by Minnesota state law. It intends to exercise the authority in a manner responsive to the best interest of the community in general and the district students in particular. I realized when I was preparing for this meeting that we are losing that language. And with new proposed MSBA 201 language, which is called School Board Legal Status, adding the statutory language in MSBA language states that school board has responsibility of governance, management, and control over public schools in the school district. Our policy has another sentence being included. Consistent with this authority, the school board governs through policy and oversight and delegates management and administration of a district to the superintendent. I had been for 2 years at policy committee, and when I was asking to add some additional language to other policies, I had been told that the language is already existing in other policies. Let's not word too much. We already know that in different documents there is a statement that superintendent has a delegation of managing. When we including the word management and delegating it in the policy which is related to school board legal status, it creates, the idea was originally to have policy, school board policy 201 and policy for superintendent. Because that has a hierarchy, the board possesses the authority, the superintendent exercises delegated authority, and the superintendent remains accountable to the board. This means the board owns the authority. By adding the language about superintendent in the school board policy, we are watering down the authority of a school board. That's the reason I will be voting no.
Okay. Sheila.
If anybody would like to motion for a change of the wording, that would be an appropriate thing that you could do, and somebody would have to second that. I just want to throw that out there. I do recognize that in policy 201 that we're sunsetting. Again, this is not from an MSBA recommended policy, that the general statement of policy on there is not written out in the new 201. Is everybody okay with not including that, or do we want to add that as what are people's feelings on adding that as like a C under general statement of policy?
So removing the sentence which says we delegate the authority.
Well, that's an option, and also adding in the language from our old 201. School board is a representative body elected by the citizens of the district. I don't know that it adds anything, and again, it's not an MSBA recommended policy.
I have a question.
Sure.
I might ask. So as I look at 201 in the red line version, in definition, it says school board, quote unquote, means the governing body of the school district. Is that encompassing of elected by citizens? Yeah?
It would be, but I think her objection is not to that. Her objection is to surrender our management capacity, not surrender, maybe the wrong word, but, what's that? Delegate the management authority to the superintendent is what I think. Am I right, Valentina?
My saying it that we have separately in documents written that school board delegates the authority to superintendent. It's already written. That's what I heard during policy meetings when I was trying to add something else to our policies, that this language is already existing in different document or in different policy. When we are including this language in a school board related duty, we are watering down the authority of a school board. That is my concern.
So if it is in another document, why would you be concerned if it is also in this document?
The same comes to my mind that the next school board policy 202, not 202, what was it? 207 has, it says school board officers for the care, management, and control. There looks like our policy committee didn't have a difficulty, but for some reason, so it remains from a statute language. This language is from statute.
Right.
It is legal language. That's why I'm not comfortable with.
Okay. So, do you want to make a motion to amend that and see if we have support? For a second, and
Okay, I would like to make a motion to remove the language, proposed language consistent with this authority. The school board governs through policy and oversight and delegates management and administration of the district to.
okay. Is there a second? I can second, right?
You can second if you want to start a discussion.
Yes. Okay. Just for the sake of discussion, I'm going to second that amendment. We now need to take a vote.
Can we have discussion?
Discussion first.
Yeah, discussion first, of course.
So the language about delegating has been moved from our old policy 201 into this new policy 201. So it was there before. It's not anything new per se.
Hang on, Sheila, just to clarify, the language, the red line language
Yeah.
was in another policy previously.
So not exactly, but in policy 201, it said, in carrying out this function, the school board recognizes the following general responsibilities as paramount. And number 3 under that is delegating administrative responsibilities.
Okay.
So that's where the part about delegating was previously, in an effort to consolidate and have, again, to better align with MSBA recommended policies and to make sure that delegation point is there somewhere. It was moved to this general statement of policy under our new 201.
Did I hear this correctly? MSBA also has a recommendation to delegate responsibility to the superintendent in their policy, model policy. I know we had in 201, the previous 201 policy, we had that statement, number 3, right?
That is, I don't believe that is an MSBA policy. Our old 201 is not an MSBA policy. Okay. They don't have it at all. It was just, and it's to me, it looks like a repetition of a lot of what was already in the new 201. And we do delegate. I mean, that is effectively how we run our board as
And if I remember correctly, the last time we brought this policy up for approval, that language was removed, and now we have added that back in. Is that correct?
That I don't know. What language was removed? Did it just say this? Yeah.
Right, so last time would have been in 2004?
No, this was tabled a couple of months ago.
Oh,
We reviewed
yes.
those.
That's when I think.
Yeah. Last
This is
time,
the language that you agreed upon at the work session, but we can change whatever you'd like.
No, I know.
Yes.
I'm just trying to jog my memory why this policy was tabled a couple of months ago, and that was because we had taken out that delegation line, right?
It was, I at least asked and challenged that one because MSBA language is stating, and MSBA policy has that statute language. It says governance, management, and control. What came to the table, the word management was removed.
Correct.
That's when I opposed it.
And then I recommended that we add the management back with the addition of the delegation to the superintendent. Am I right?
yes, and so that language was added back in, and now that sentence that's in statute is there in full, and then an additional sentence of delegation was added.
Okay.
So my understanding, and help me if I'm stating this incorrectly, is that you're concerned that we're watering down our responsibility.
Yes.
Okay. I personally am not seeing how that could be, because in any case, statute, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, statute overrides anything. And we still have responsibility for governance, management, and control over the public schools in this wording.
Correct.
But what I'm seeing is actually a more accurate reflection in our policy of how we are doing things. And in my perspective, I think it's actually very important for us to have that clarity, because it sets expectations, and then everyone knows what their role is. And it's clear what each person or each person's role is obligated to. That's my perspective.
Did everybody had a chance to say, or so I'm not overtaken? Yes, you are right that statute language supersedes if school board did not do correct with policy. Statute language supersedes. But my point is here, what I'm saying, that we have documents already stating that superintendent is, we authorize superintendent to manage. This one is specifically policy for school board, and it is repeating the statutory language. And it also, the same language is being used in 207, where that one for some reason was not challenged. It left as is. It says, for the care, management, and control of a public school, of the public schools of a school district. That's the only thing. Since it's already documented in our place that we delegate the authority to superintendent, I'm not sure why we are cutting our our responsibility, our authority here, when we include that language in school board related function.
I would say, as Heidi said, that this is an accurate reflection of how the board has historically been running the district by delegating, and so it is more accurately reflective.
Can I ask one more question?
Well, I was just going to say that a majority of 4 board members can vote to do other things. It doesn't take away the voting power of the board to later change the policy or to do something that is not even consistent with delegation, which as a board, if we ratify this policy, we're saying we we support the delegation, but it by no means prevents, again, a majority of 4 people from doing something different later.
Yeah, go ahead, Heidi.
My question was, and if somebody could help me out with this, I'm pulling it up now, but it looks like the last reviewed date of 207 was February 14th, 2022, and that was the last amendment date. So I'm not sure that it may not have gone through the same conversation that's happening now. That's all I'm trying to get at, is it's 2026, and that 4-year gap we may have learned and seen more things in that time.
On the other hand, it may have gone through the same conversation, but
That's possible.
they decided to
That's possible.
leave the language in, right? So I had objected to the removal of the word management and suggested addition, that additional sentence. So I am okay with accepting that as amended. Okay. Yeah, Paras.
No, so I agree with how it is written. So no questions or concerns there. And Valentina, just so I'm following your concern, are there other policies where we have to make similar change? Maybe we have original statement in other policies and now we have to replace with the revised version of delegate?
Possibly, but I just want to raise that in Policy 207, Section 2, Subpart B, it reads, "The persons who perform the duties of the officers of the clerk and treasurer need not be members of the school board. Those duties may be delegated to appropriate district personnel." So it is in the policy 207.
But that has, I don't know if that has any connection with the discussion at hand, right?
I think it does, because she was referring to 207.
Right, but she was referring to another statement in 207, nothing to do with the clerk and the treasurer. She was referring to the statement, right, that the delegation of management to the superintendent. Is that still there?
207 is school board officers. The topic is school board officers.
Superintendent's at the final, though. It's E.
Yeah, Alicia. No? Okay. Dan, you have anything? No. All right. I think hopefully we have had enough discussion. Let's go around the table and see if this amendment has a majority or is not acceptable.
May I clarify, please, which language is going to be?
You wanted to amend the approval of the policy as recommended, to amend it to take out that
sentence.
That sentence,
Yes.
right? So you moved, I seconded, and we had a discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Now that amendment is being voted on.
Okay.
Am I right?
Can we restate the verbiage? Could you restate how you would like it voted on exactly?
I propose my amendment is to remove that the last proposal of adding consistent with this authority, the school board governs through policy and oversight and delegates management and administration to the district to the superintendent.
Okay. That was my understanding, and that's what I seconded, so. All right, let's take a vote, see. Yeah, a roll call.
Right, and just for point of information, so then removing the line in A starting with the word consistent, is it proposed to substitute anything in that place? No, just to cross it out entirely, okay.
Yeah.
All right, the motion being made and seconded, I'll start with the roll call vote. Beginning with myself, Dan Ginestra. Dan Ginestra votes no. Alicia Little.
No.
Paras Bendy.
No.
Sheila Pryor.
No.
Heidi Cater.
No.
Valentina Ayers.
Yes.
Millen Sahoni.
I vote no, and so the motion to amend fails. We go back to the original motion to approve the policies as recommended and sunset the recommended policies. I guess we have finished the discussion on that, right? Okay, so this is also a roll call vote. Yes.
All right, colleagues. Dan Ginestra, I vote yes. Alicia Little,
Yes.
Paris Bendy,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor,
Yes.
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers,
No.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you. Thanks to the policy committee. That's a lot of work. And hopefully we have sorted many of the policies now, going back to having them numbered just like MSBA has. So, and thank you, Amy, for doing that. All right, we're moving on to the next item. It's the Finance and Operations Report presented by Executive Director Trevor Peterson. Trevor will first present the combined financial reports for the month ended April 30th, 2026. Trevor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Sahoni, members of the board. I am actually asking Jen Welk, our Student Accounting and Finance Manager, along with Jack Stearns, our Director of Finance, to present actually the next two agenda items for us.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, school board. Superintendent Anderson, thank you for having us today. We're going to start with the financials for the month end April 30th, 2026. So this will be 10 fiscal months out of the year. I wanted to point out that the budget was approved on April 20th. So the budget column now is reflective of our revised budget. So beginning, property taxes are all coming in line with previous fiscal years. You'll notice that it's at 97.5 while the previous two fiscal years were at 100%. That's just because of one small payment that's still coming in. You'll see it in May on the May statement, so that will also be at 100%. But other than that, state aids all of our metered state aid payments are coming in as expected. Jen, would you like to talk to federal?
Yep, our federal, the draws are a little bit higher this year. We chose to process some of those before we changed over new finance systems.
Thank you. And then finally is the miscellaneous local revenue. You can see that is right in line with previous fiscal years as well. We did revise the miscellaneous local revenue down a little bit due to the investment income or the interest income. So that is why last year it's a little bit higher than this year just because of the interest income, but everything is coming in as expected. You'll notice that all the other funds, food service, community service, and debt service all are in line as well, with the total all funds being right around 82%. So moving on to the expenses, you'll see that salary and benefits are both in line with previous fiscal years. When it comes to things such as purchase services, supplies, capital, this is all based on timing for the most part, based on when projects are being completed, timing of payments and things like that. But you'll see at the bottom line, the total general fund expenditures are right in line with previous fiscal years as well. You'll notice that food service and community service are both a little higher than previous fiscal years. They were just doing a little preemptive spending before the end of the fiscal year, but everything is coming in as expected to budget there. And then you'll also notice that debt service is 100%, which is really good. So here's a statement that has been new the last few months. This is just where we're breaking out the general fund operating against the restricted fund balances or restricted budgets. It's just another way to kind of look at our financials. You'll see that our unrestricted revenue is all coming in right around 78.8, with the previous 2 years being about 79. And then below that is the tech levy, our long-term facility maintenance and operating capital, which are all also coming in similar to previous fiscal years. Below that, you'll see with the unrestricted expenditures, that is all coming in as expected. And then we broke out on that side as well, the tech, LTFM, and operating, just to kind of show, like I said, a different view of it. This has also been updated for the revised budget. So I'd like to point out that on the bottom where we have the unassigned assigned portion, this has been updated, and the projected 6/30/2026 unassigned assigned fund balance is comparable to the revised. So we're projecting about that $4.5 million addition to our unassigned fund balance there. And finally is our cash on hand. In April, we received our first tax payment for the year, or for the second half of the year. So that's why our cash is higher. It will continue to be higher next month too as we receive our other tax payment. It was fun to see over $100 million in the bank for the first time. That's how you know that we're in a good financial standing and enrollment's growing, because I don't really know the last time that that's happened. So that was really exciting to see. I opened the bank account and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. But like I said, we received the first tax payment. We'll get the other tax payment in May. And then the other cash amounts there are the alt facility bonds, which we spent by the end of this summer. So that we're projecting to be completely spent up on pavement projects. And then there's our capital facility bonds, which is the 2025A bonds for West Middle School, which we did a large draw in May for this. So you'll see on the next month's financials that does drop, because we're projecting that project to be wrapped up by the end of the summer. Any questions in regards to the financials?
Thank you, Jack. Any questions? No. So the $100 million will not be with MISLAF, right? They will be in the bonds part of the...
No, that would be in the MISLAF. So
it will be in the MISLAF. Oh.
Yep. So that's just from our state aid payments, our federal, and our tax payments. So in terms of cash flow, we're on our high end of the cash flow, and then we'll trickle down a little bit as the year goes on, and our metered payments will continue to come in. And as Jen does draws, so that money will come in as well.
Dr. Sahoni, are you referring to the $100 million bond sale that we're coming up later?
I am.
Yeah, that'll actually probably show up in a separate line.
Okay.
On here. Yeah.
But not in the MISLAF fund. Or will it be in the
possibly it could be a MISLAF fund, but we aren't sure yet, because that'll...
If I'm on the board of trustees of MISLAF, if I see it there, I will make sure that they understand that it's our money. Thank you. Anybody else? No, thank you, Jack. Let's move on to the next one, which is, there's no action on this one right now. Next one is a preliminary budget, right? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, next up is our 26-27 preliminary budget. This is Jen and my third time presenting this, and we get better each time, I'd say. We've had the joy of presenting to the CFAC committee as well as the finance committee of the board, and received feedback and answered questions, and it's been an awesome opportunity for us.
So looking at the agenda for tonight, we're going to discuss the background information along with some assumptions and components that went into creating the budget. It's the overview information of our prelim fiscal 26-27 budget, which includes the general fund, food service, community ed, construction, and debt service, and then we'll have some time for questions. You've probably seen this slide many times. It's just a summary of our government fund structure. The general fund is up on, I'm not going to read it. You guys can if you haven't already. The general fund up on top, and then the four underneath that are standalone funds. So here's our timeline. Today we are at the yellow arrow, seeking approval for the preliminary budget. In January, the finance team will get together and look at revised budget assumptions, and then come back to you, the school board, in February with our revised budget. And then in April, we'll come with the capital budget, and in April and May, any budget updates we have, we may come to you again. So getting into our key assumptions, our sources of revenue for the general fund, 60% of it comes from state, 34% from property taxes, 3% from federal, and 3% from other. So key assumptions that go along with the general fund is our formula allowance. It is the dollar amount per pupil unit used to calculate the district's basic general ed revenue. For fiscal 27, the percent increase from prior year is 2.69%, which is $202 more per student. Keep in mind that fiscal 28 and 29 and beyond, the actual increase will have a floor of 2% and a cap of 3%. So one of the main components of putting together the budget is the enrollment projections. As you know, we're a pupil-driven revenue system. So the projections are based upon a combination of our internal trend data as well as the demographic studies that we did in fall of 2024. We took our original assumptions of high migration and low kindergarten and then updated that with the current enrollment we're experiencing as well as the developments that are actively building in our community. For the preliminary budget, the district is estimating $13,349. Now, please keep in mind that that includes all of our students early childhood through age 22. It is an increase of 285 students from our prior year revised estimate. So if you look at the grid down below, with the formula allowance being $7,683 and an increased student projection of 285 students, we're estimating a revenue of increased enrollment at just under $2.2 million. So as we look at the revenue projection information, we're looking at enrollment increases, as I mentioned, with the 285 additional students. With the formula allowance, that brings in roughly 60% of our revenue. And then we have our levy dollars, which is 30% of our revenue budget, and that's roughly a 5% increase with the adjustments made for 26-27. Federal allocations, we're estimating similar revenue from prior year.
So moving on to the expenditure side, when it came to salary and benefits, we utilized the settled contracts as well as there are some contracts currently in negotiation. So we worked with our HR team to figure out the best way to budget this via staffing for 26-27. We budgeted a 7% increase for health insurance costs. There was no increase for the dental insurance costs this year. Transportation, as everyone remembers, we went out for RFP for a new vendor for this. So with this, we did budget roughly a 5% increase for 26-27 for transportation services. Utilities, we budgeted an overall increase of 3%. LTFM, this is similar to previous years. It's the $15 million that we levy for long-term facility maintenance projects. For special education, we did budget an increase of more than 7% due to higher projected needs and increases expected in the future for this as well. Some of that being the $1.5 million that we shift from federal to state education for tuition. And then finally is the tech levy or technology, and this increase is offset in the revenues via the tech levy that was approved. So here's another way of looking at what I just kind of talked about. You can see the 25-26 column and then the 26-27 column. And then all the various health insurance, dental, TRA, all of this was baked into our budget when we did the prelim for salary and benefits and all this supplies and capital and things like that. I really enjoy this slide just because it gives a good kind of show of where our expenditures go via the various locations. You'll see that 52% is in salaries, 19% is in employee benefits, 16% is in purchase services, but I would like to point out that Wayzata is a little bit different than other school districts in that our transportation services are outsourced, so we're not paying for buses or bus drivers and things like that. So about 9% of our purchase services is transportation costs. 9% is capital purchases, 3% is supplies and materials, and 1% is other expenses. So now we're getting into the budget compared to so on the left side is our 25-26 revised, in the middle is the change or the amendments we made to the budget, and then the 26-27 is the prelim budget, so that's on the right side there. I would like to point out that this is the total general fund, so this is everything that is related to our general fund budget, so all of our restricted fund balances as well as our operating. So the next slide is another general fund slide that we'll get into that kind of shows a more clear picture of our operations. But for our total budget for the general fund, you'll see that we added $4.4 million to our local property tax revenue. This is via the property tax statements, so that was approved last year. And now we're budgeting it for 26-27. State aids, we'll see that we added $9.8 million to this budget for the prelim 26-27. A large portion of this is our state aid, of course the state aids, but a large portion is the specialized education revenue, and then the rest of it is based on enrollment increases.
And then our, our federal aid, there is a decrease because we are estimating fiscal 27 to be current year allocations. Prior year of the 4.1 million there, it did include a higher amount of carryover from prior years due to having the ESSER funds a few years back. And then we don't get prelim allocations for our federal special ed until August. So we're going based on just some trend data.
So the last revenue up there is our other local revenues. So most of this is our interest revenue as well as our fee-based revenue for athletics and student activities. We like to budget this conservatively, so we did decrease this budget from revised. I have expectation that we probably will revise it up when we get to that point, but for now we wanted to be conservative here. So that brings our total revenues just over $250 million. Expenditure side, as I mentioned, the salary and benefits, we utilize all those, the settled contracts, the negotiated contracts, paid family medical leave, all of our health benefits, dental benefits, and in total we added about $10.1 million to salary and benefits for this year, or this coming year. Purchase services, there was a slight decrease, bringing the total to $36.3 million. Supplies and materials we added here, bringing the total to $9.6 million. Supplies and materials, I just mentioned that one. Capital was another decrease. This decrease was primarily just due to our West Middle School project and then the referendum and things like that coming up, long-term facility maintenance projects. We'll be using other funding sources for capital, so this was an area that we could decrease on the general fund side. And then miscellaneous and other expenditures is about the same as the revised at $1.1 million. This is another look at our general fund budget. The only difference between this and the last slide is that I took away the LTFM. As you all are aware, we're still receiving some adjustments on the LTFM side on the revenue. This year for 26-27, we are receiving $11 million in revenue, and then our expenditures are still budgeted at $15 million. So that's why it's all sitting in a restricted fund balance, but it does nothing to, it doesn't affect operations in that way, other than it just is sitting in that restricted fund balance. So we wanted to strip it away on this prelim budget slide to show you what the increase to our unassigned fund balance could be, or what we're projecting it to be for this coming year. So at the moment, we're projecting revenue over expense to be about $2.4 million for the general fund. So with the help of our of other wonderful members of Wayzata Public Schools, I'm talking about Jenny Ebert, the Director of Community Ed, as well as Michelle Sagadal, the Director of Wayzata Cafes. We are going to present their budgets for them for 26-27. First was Michelle's budget for Wayzata Cafes. In total, she's adding about $414,000 to her revenue budget. Most of this is on the federal and state side for meals. She uses a mixture of participation rate for meal sales, as well as enrollment, and then I guess the rates aren't out yet. So she was using the 25-26 rates to estimate the increase for revenue there. And on the expenditure side, she budgeted about $309,000 for salary and benefits. She did budget an increase for food. A large portion of this is because of inflation. And then on the miscellaneous other, within there is the capital or operating equipment. For the 25-26 budget year, she did spend down her fund balance a little bit on projects at the high school, and she's not projecting to do that for 26-27. So that's why there's that large decrease there, or change from 25-26. So at the moment, she's expecting to add about $55,000 to her fund balance. And then moving on to community ed, you'll see total revenue addition from revised for community ed is about $1.1 million. A large portion of this, or the largest portion, is the fee-based revenue. She's added a lot of programs after school, so after school programs, and you can see what our enrollment and the addition of those extra programs are doing to her fund, which is amazing. That raises her total revenues up to $17.2 million. And then on the expenditure side, she added salary and benefits, similar to our general fund and the Wayzata Cafes, decreased purchase services, supplies, and then as well decreased capital and dues. But she's projected to add about $516,000 to her fund balance. And the last two funds are going to be our debt service and our construction fund. First is our construction fund. You'll see that there's a fairly large change from 25-26 to our 26-27 prelim. That's primarily just it's completely due to those 2025A bonds for the West Middle School project. The total revenue in 25-26 was those bonds. And then since we currently don't have any bonds, we budgeted $0. for the revenue side of our construction fund here. And on the expenditure side, the West Middle School project is expected to be completed by the end of the summer. So we just budgeted our expected spend for July and August there in 26, 27. And then we're also expecting within the construction fund under those abatement dollars that I talked about during the revenue expense summary, there's about 500,000 sitting there. John Deutsch is going to spend that this year. So we did not budget that for 26, 27. So the only thing budgeted in 26, 27 at the moment is the remainder of the West Middle School project. And then the last one is our debt service fund. All of the revenue on this is from property taxes, so that's coming straight from our levy certification. And on the expenditure side is our principal and interest payments for the 26, 27 school year for all of our debt.
And this is just a reminder as to why we're here today, seeking approval on the fiscal 26-27 preliminary budget.
All right, thank you, Jack, and thank you, Jen. So the recommended action, colleagues, is to approve the preliminary budget for the 2026-27 fiscal year. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No discussions, but just wanted to commend all the work that finance team has done. I especially wanted to call out our CFAC meeting. And I think most of you are aware our CFAC audience is very finance and business savvy. So we get a lot of good questions, and the way you guys handle those questions, especially around bond sales, and Trevor, you have done a really good job in terms of explaining everyone in simplistic terms. So really kudos to you all. You've done your due diligence. You are always prepared. So there is never a follow-up. There is always answer and clarification. So just wanted to call out, great job in those meetings.
I have one more piece. I also I'll tag on to that. So thank you to Jen and to Jack and to Trevor for all the work that you've done. I know you've been diligently building this budget for some time. We're always working in 3 years at one time, so this is a lot of work. It is typical, board colleagues, since we have a new board colleague, I just want to highlight, it's typical for us to come to the very end of June to approve the budget so that we have the most accurate numbers for our upcoming year. So it's typical that it's at a special meeting around our work session. So today is the same kind of a situation. I also want to highlight the work that Jenny Ebert and her team are doing. It is the first time in a long time that we are going to open enrollment again for Wayzata Kids. And that is a big reason for her increase in revenues. And I'm just so excited, not just for Jenny and for Wayzata Kids, but for all of us. Because if you're looking for a spot, make sure that you go in when it's time to sign up. Keep your eye open on Parent Square and get in when you can. Again, thank you to Michelle Sagadal. The food is delicious and the kids are happy. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, I also want to thank the Finance Committee, Heidi, Paras, and Dan, right? You're on the committee. Thank you for all the hard work, and obviously the administration as well, led by Trevor. I do have a question. This could be for you, Jack, or Jen, or for you, Trevor. So we all know that the special education, the enrollment in special education kids is growing for the last several years. The federal government, it's not doing its part under the IDEA Act, under which they promised 40% contribution in, I think it was 1974 when that act was enacted. Now we know that there was an executive order to transfer the education department. I don't know if it is completely to the HHS or partly to HHS and another department, but any idea on what that might do to the little bit that we still get under IDEA, I think like 13% or something like that? Will that drop a lot?
Frankly, I don't know if anybody knows. It's still pretty fresh, pretty new. I mean, I think that news came out last week as to what is happening there. I think everybody is waiting to see what that might look like financially. Quite honestly, we probably don't have that information yet. So I do want to point out, though, that that is a huge variable. We do a lot of work. We have a high level of confidence in the budget that we bring forward to the board for approval. But I think everybody understands there's still variables, especially of a district our size, and small things can become big dollars attached to it. And special ed is one of those, both on the expenditure and revenue side of that too. So what we don't talk about a lot is even our special ed revenue that's currently at about, what are we even at, $30 million or so, give or take a little bit, is we don't know what our revenue for 26, 27 is going to be until 25, 26 is finalized, because it's based on 25, 26 expenditures, and we probably won't even know until February or March of next year. So that's just one example of many variables. So I know that's not a direct answer to your question, but you do point out one of those things that's a huge variable for districts across the state.
But my basic question is, of the 30 million in SPED revenues, how much comes from the federal government through that IDEA contribution? Is it a big chunk, a small one that we don't have to really worry about, or?
Yeah, I see Jen is turning on her microphone, so take it away.
We do not have a large allocation for federal special ed.
Okay.
And then we do use some of that to cover tuition costs for our students. I haven't heard anything this year as far as fiscal 27, what's happening. I think, like Trevor said, there's a lot of unknowns. I'm reading everything I can, trying to keep up on stuff. We never get our prelim allocation until August. It's been that way forever from the state. We get it in August, and we don't even get a final until March. So like for fiscal 26, we just got our final allocation in March. And so we just have to go based on what we're seeing for trends and the information we have. I think there's just a lot of unknowns.
Sure. So just wait and watch then.
Yeah, and Jen also mentioned during the presentation about our carryover. We're very strategic about how much of our federal allocation we carry over from year to year. So what that does is that allows us some flexibility. Should we get a decrease in federal allocations in any given year, we have the ability to utilize some of that carryover from previous years that will allow us to not have to react as much to the current news, but be able to, yes, we would have to plan for that in future years, but it allows us some time to figure out a new plan going forward should a federal allocation come in a lot lower than what we were expecting. But it is important. I know a lot of districts do not use the carryover, or they use all of their funds in any given year. We are not a district that does that, just to safeguard from those things happening.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just lift up one point out of that, Trevor? As you were talking, the carryover doesn't just allow for flexibility, but it protects the programming that's available to our students and our families. Is that correct?
That would be accurate, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, if there are no other comments, let's, I'm going to read the recommendation again. It's to approve the preliminary budget for the 2026-27 fiscal year. Roll call vote then.
All right. Colleagues, Sheila Pryor,
Yes.
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers,
Yes.
Dan Ginestra. Dan Ginestra votes yes. Alicia Little,
Yes.
Paris Bendy,
Yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes, thank you, and the motion passes. Okay, next we are moving on. Now it's going to be Trevor, right? Yeah. Trevor will recommend approval of the general obligation school building bonds series 2026B.
Yes, thank you, Chair Sahoni, members of the board. Dr. Anderson, thanks again. I'll kind of let him introduce himself, but I'll do it anyways too. Matthew Hammer, Ehlers Financial Advisors. He's been a pretty regular visitor to the seat over here. ever since we received good news and thank our taxpayers for what happened on April 14th, there's been plenty of work going on behind the scenes as to what this means for us going forward. One of those things is identifying what multiple bond sales would look like to receive the $496 million. And Matthew can talk about it far better than I can, so I'll defer to him in a little bit. But as of right now, because of the length of the construction projects that will be occurring in our district and affecting every building within our district boundaries, we are currently planning to do 4 bond sales to make up the $496 million of voter-approved funding. So tonight, we are bringing forth the first of that for $100 million. Again, Matthew can talk about the rhyme or reason as to why that amount, the timeline of that, but as of right now, of the 4 bond sales that we are planning, which can change and probably will, maybe the timeline of it or the dollar amounts of it, we do project based on our draw schedule, working with our construction partners, Wold Architects, as well as Kraus Anderson, to do the best we can for a draw schedule. And by draw schedule, I mean identifying which projects will be happening when, at what price, so we know that we have funds in hand to be able to pay the contractors for the work that's being done. So at this time, we are planning for this first $100 million to last us through the first quarter of the 2028 calendar year. So again, I'll turn it over to Matthew to talk about more of specifics of that, and yeah, and then later on we'll seek your approval to do so.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. Good evening, members of the board, Chair Sahoni, members of the board, Superintendent Anderson, Matthew Hammer, Municipal Advisor from Ellers. As Trevor said, we've been working with the district administration and the construction manager, Kraus Anderson, pretty extensively to identify the overarching construction schedule. And that really ties into the overall plan as we set up the financing plan. And from a big picture perspective, we don't necessarily want to be paying interest on dollars that we don't need until we actually need them for construction. And when we look at these large construction projects over a number of years, it's important for us to try to align the timing with the funding needs in a strategic way to try to optimize the plan and keep the costs down for taxpayers as much as we can, as well as providing flexibility for the school district as we go forward. So with all of that planning, we've identified the first issue is going to be $100 million of the $496 million. As Trevor pointed out, that is going to get us through, based on the preliminary schedule, around the early winter of 28. So the next phase, which is scheduled to be a little bit larger in phase 2, would happen February of 28, and then about every year after that until we get through the project. That will change, right, as we get into the actual timing of the need. If we don't need the money as fast, we likely won't necessarily be issuing as fast, and we also will be monitoring market conditions along the way if there's advantageous times for us to be looking at an additional sale. The reason for why we look at this is kind of twofold. One, we try to give the district flexibility, try to manage interest costs, but we also have considerations from an IRS perspective, which is called arbitrage. And we're trying to align that timing to minimize that arbitrage liability or rebate that the district would have to be owing between now and when you need the funds. And there's a lot of detail behind that, and I won't get into it, but big picture, the timing matters, right? And there's some timing limitations that if we can get funds in play for the district and they can get spent on a schedule based on what we've identified with the construction firm, we don't necessarily have to give money back to the IRS. And what arbitrage big picture means is you're going to borrow at tax exempt rates. We're going to go hopefully invest them at a higher return, and you'd want to be able to keep those funds in your construction fund to help support the project. So as we continue forward, that'll be some of the pieces that we are accounting for as part of the overarching plan. With this issue, you'll see that there is a call provision in, right now we have an 8-year call. That's what market is kind of dictating when we go in, and we're going to be taking competitive bids on the bonds. It'll look a little different than the tender refinancing we did. This is kind of our typical process here where we're going to go through a competitive bond sale. It's scheduled for August 10th, the morning of August 10th. And then the school board will award to the low bidder who's offering the lowest true interest cost that day at your meeting that night. We're scheduled then to close on September 3rd, and then those funds will be available to go to pay some reimbursements that the district will have, because you will have some costs, and then be invested between then and when we get to the next issuance. That timing is, you see that calendar, we will go through our rating process again. It'll be a little bit abbreviated because we're just coming off of our other rating. We'll be going through due diligence, and we'll have another offering document called the preliminary official statement that will go out to bidders about 10 days ahead of the sale. And then the bidders will be offering their bids typically that morning of August 10th. So right now, we're in really good shape. We've had some recent sales. There's been some stability from what we've seen in the bond market, which has been good. And we're looking at an interest rate that we've identified, our true interest costs on this initial sale. We have an estimate of, I think it's 439, which has about 50 basis points of cushion. So we're expecting, if we were in the market today, we'll still be underneath 4%. For a true interest cost when we go to market. Did I miss anything?
No, I think it's probably a good time to add, just because Jack and Jen just went through the budget presentation, and there was once again multiple slides on there as we continue to work through our LTFM adjustments. And while this doesn't have anything to do with it, the bond issuance that we're bringing forth today, I do think it's important to let the board know that through this work that we're doing with Ellers, and we have been pretty I guess upfront with the board, the finance committee of the board, as well as CFAC, that there is opportunity while we're doing construction for the bonds. There are some projects that have been identified that are eligible to use LTFM funds for. That makes sense to do that while you're at the building doing other things. It just helps optimize and maximize resources to be able to not have to mobilize multiple times if you have a contractor on site. Provide some bidding flexibility. So the timing of that makes a lot of sense. But in order to accomplish that, we're going to have to stray from our LTFM practices that we've done in the past, which has been called what is a pay-as-you-go format, where you basically estimate what your annual expenditures are going to be, and then do projects that match up to that. So in order to make that happen, we are going to need more cash on hand during these next 4 or 5 years to increase our LTFM projects. So rather than, in order to have more cash available, but to be able to keep the debt service level, we will be utilizing some LTF bond issuances to do that. And again, those will come forward later on. But I think it's important to know that this is all part of that plan. It doesn't have anything to do with the action that's recommended tonight, but know that that is a significant part of what the district will be seeing in the next 4 or 5 years too. The other thing Matthew did talk about the reimbursement. So the resolution brought forward tonight is not only to authorize the issuance of the bonds, but there's also the reimbursement language in there that allows us to go back for expenditures that have already incurred, essentially to utilize these funds to pay ourselves back or pay the general fund back for those expenditures that are eligible for bond construction funds. So I think with that, we would open up for any questions, or the recommend action is before you too.
I will do that. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Matthew. So board colleagues, the recommended action is to approve the resolution relating to general obligations, school building bonds, Series 2026B, authorizing issuance, providing for sale, and covenanting and obligating the district to be bound by and use the State Credit Enhancement Program and establishing compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I have a question about the LTFM funds and what you just told us. I guess I want help understanding what will that look like that's different than before. We would pay as we went before, and now we will take from and replenish, or?
No, that's a good question. So let's look at this from a 10-year window. So our current practice is to identify $15 million per year. That's fluctuated a little bit, but for the most part, it's averaged $15 million a year that we would do $15 million worth of projects. So over the course of those 10 years, it's $150 million. Over the next 10 years, we will be doing $150 million worth of work, but we're going to be doing maybe $12 million next year and maybe $39 million the following year, $20 million after the year after that, and then it drops down to maybe $6 or $7 million. So the bonding mechanism would be used. So it looks like it's $15 million a year to keep the debt service level, but it allows us then to carry over any unused funds to future years, which we do not have the ability to do that on the pay-as-you-go method. And that's where our LTFM adjustments have been the last few years. So if we do pay-as-you-go for $15 million of LTFM and you only spend $10 million, that's where a negative adjustment, your revenue is negatively adjusted $5 million to make up for that. So that is what we have been dealing with recently. So to be able to use bonds to have that money available to carry over from year to year will eliminate the LTFM adjustments as well. So kind of a win on both sides. So if that makes sense, I'd answer your question.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the excellent presentation. It was really great to have these conversations in committee. I was curious about kind of anticipated interest in the school district's debt. Have you received solicitations? Have you received any indicator of who all might or how much interest we may see?
We'll see interest in your district, right? You have a AAA rating, so that's obviously going to carry a lot of interest out in the markets. The size of the issue is also going to be in a good spot, right, for what purchases are looking for. That'll go public, right? So nothing's officially publicly released until the POS is released, which will be about 10 days ahead of the bond sale. And for regulatory reasons, right, there's really nothing that the district can do until that document goes out to the public markets, and everybody then has a chance to bid at it competitively on the day of sale.
Thank you.
Okay, I have 3 questions. So in simple words, tell me if LTFM and the proceeds from these bonds, are they going to be separate buckets or will they commingle?
They will be separate buckets. They need to be in order for us to track the expenditures accordingly. So yes.
Happy to hear that. Okay.
Yeah, and that will get a little difficult. It'll take some effort to do that because, like I said, there will be projects that we want to bid together, but we'll have to identify in those cases how much of it is for the bond and how much is LTFM. So they will need to be separated.
And that will be transparent. Everybody will know what.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Thank you. So Matthew, I think, spoke about interest rates. From now until August 10th is a couple of months. And we know that Kevin Warsh, the new governor of the federal bank, has announced that he may increase rates. That's a very strong possibility. So are we hedging against that happening? And how
we have cushion built in, right, to our rate assumptions on purpose, right? So we had about 50 basis points on what we have for pre-sale. it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out, right? Because there's the short term and the long end of the curve, right? In the grand scheme of where things are at. So we're comfortable with where we're sitting right now. And even if we were all the way up to what our pre-sale estimate, we're really positioned really well for the long run, right? Because this is a journey as we go through this process. We have this initial bond sale, and we were carrying higher interest rates assumptions as we went into the pre-election estimates. So right now we have this initial bond sale estimated at not quite 440. Right, if we were in, we think that's about 50 basis points of cushion based on where the market is. And then we're still carrying higher interest rate assumptions as we go through the plan. So over this duration, and as markets go, and as you look at your own investments, right, there's going to be fluctuations over time. And that's one of the things that we'll be monitoring too. I will say from a big picture perspective, right, as we looked at the planning, if we were COVID rates like 2021, 2022 was planned to look a little different, right? When interest rates were 2%.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as we kind of go forward here, if there is some opportunities, it could change and dictate what this looks like as we go over time as well.
Okay. And then the last question is about the draw. I heard that after this one, the next draw will be in February of 28. And there will be 4 more draws, correct? So 28, 29, 30, and 31.
Yeah, there'll be 3 more is what our estimate is now. So this is the initial sale. Then we're looking at 3 additional sales.
So not 100 million every time then?
No,
Okay,
it
3
won't
more,
be.
so-
It's not 100 million every time because your construction schedule needs different amounts of cash at different times. I think the next issue is about 170 million. 175 million, and it's subsequently followed by another larger issue, and then the last one is smaller at this point in time.
So
Yeah, right now that's scheduled to be 100 million, and then in February of 28, 175, February of 29, 150, and then February of 30 would be 71 million.
So that means that the timeline is going to be 2030 when we will make the last draw. Is that what we had anticipated the timeline to be for this project?
Yes, yeah, and I think that's an important point too, because it's impossible to do this amount of construction in 1 or 2 years, not only from a capacity standpoint, a contractor standpoint, but also our buildings are used year-round. So we really need to be thoughtful of not closing certain buildings in certain summers at certain times. So all of that had to be considered into what we have as a master schedule right now. And that master schedule will change. Some projects might get accelerated, some might get pushed back. That's how this goes. And if that happens, those future bond amounts that I just listed could change. We don't expect them to change a lot, but you could change from 10 to 20 million just based on if the schedule does change at that time too. So a lot of things to consider.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just want to highlight something that you reminded me as you were asking your questions. All of the scheduling has been done in collaboration with building leaders and principals, and so it's important to understand that this isn't done in a vacuum at all.
Of course not. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. If there are no more questions, I'm going to read the recommended action again, long one again, is to approve the resolution relating to general obligation school building bonds, Series 2026B, authorizing issuance, providing for sale, and covenanting and obligating the district to be bound by and use the State Credit Enhancement Program and establishing compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code. This is a roll call vote, Dan.
Colleagues, Heidi Keeter,
An emphatic yes.
Valentina Ayers,
Yes.
Dan Ginestra. Dan Ginestra votes yes. Alicia Little,
Yes.
Paris Bendy,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor,
Yes.
Millen Sahoni.
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you, Dan. And then I think you have one more item, Trevor, is the seeking resolution on certification of population levy. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Yes, Minnesota statutes do allow a school district to submit to MDE population estimates for your school district from the state demographer based on recent estimates. So we try to do this every year for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's good just to have accurate information. Secondly, it continues to show the growth within our district, the population, and one other thing too is it does provide additional revenue for our community education or Fund 4. So with that, we do have a resolution before you that would increase our district population from 74,015 people to 74,762, an increase of 747 students. And just for a little additional context, I mentioned the community service revenue that would generate an additional $5,811.66 for the community education fund. So it's not a ton of money, but it's more than zero, which always helps. So with that, the recommended action is before you.
Thank you, Trevor. So colleagues, the recommended action is to approve the population estimate of 74,762 as of June 2026. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay.
I might just indicate that the increase is residents, not students, and some of which would be students, just to offer that clarification.
Good point. Yeah. Okay.
My
Go ahead.
understanding also that it is for done so that it is for funding for recreation, summer and after school programs too, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So it's three different funding sources within the community ed budget. It's for general community ed, it's for youth service, and then for after school services. So a portion of that additional population goes to those three programs.
Thank you.
I have a question, clarification question actually. So is there a threshold at which we have to report this or get it approved by the board? Because a number could be within the margin of error also, right? What if there is an increase of 30 people? We still have to report?
Yeah, no, the answer to your question is no. A school district can do this. It doesn't have to. There are actually school districts, if their population is decreasing, they choose not to. So they can maintain existing revenue.
Okay, thank you. So again, the recommended action is to approve the population estimate of 74,762 as of June 2026. This is a roll call vote as well.
Colleagues, Alicia Little,
Yes.
Paris Bendy,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor,
Yes.
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers,
Yes.
Dan Ginestra. Dan Ginestra votes yes. Millen Sahoni.
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you, Dan. All right, thank you, Trevor. So the next item on the agenda is Human Resource Services reports. We are getting near the end, guys. So we're getting there. So Laura Hoffman-Hardick, I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly, Director of Human Resources, will first recommend approval of unaffiliated salaries and handbook changes.
Great. Good evening, School Board and Dr. Anderson. Thanks for having me this evening while I present for Dave while he is out. I have the pleasure of presenting the next two items. And the first thing I'm going to go over are the unaffiliated changes or proposed changes. So included in the summary is information about increases to salary schedule and the district's contribution to health insurance. For the salary schedule, we are recommending a 3.4% increase across all three unaffiliated handbooks. Health insurance, we are increasing in the district contribution of 12.75%. And just for reference, 12.75% is the known premium increase for the 26-27 school year. The total package for this one-year cost is 5.61%. And then just a few items that helped us or that led up to this recommendation. Human Resources did a study of comparable positions in similar districts. We primarily used the Lake Conference districts when doing these types of compensation studies. And we also did a review of settlement levels from the last 10 years, which reflect a lower salary increase average than other groups, with a notable difference in the last 3 fiscal years. From 2023 to 2026, principals and teachers averaged a 2.68 salary increase, while unaffiliated averaged a 1.75 increase across those 3 years. A survey was sent out to all unaffiliated staff, and follow-up meetings were held by level to discuss priorities for the 26-27 handbooks. Across all level, while there were various ideas proposed in regards to specific contract language, the common sentiment around the last 3 settlement salary levels was notable. The 1-year total package of 5.61% is still below the 1-year settlement cost of the 2025-2027 WA contract, which is 5.69%. The recommendation has been reviewed and is supported by the Executive Director of Finance, Trevor Peterson, Superintendent Chase Anderson, and incoming Superintendent Dr. Rob Virgin. And that has also been reviewed by the HR Committee of the Board. And the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Laura. So the recommended action is to approve the 2026-27 unaffiliated salaries and handbook changes as recommended. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, Valentina.
I have a question. Actually, I sent obviously ahead of the game clarifying questions, but right now one of them comes to my mind. When we have 2.69% formula increase per student, how are we gonna be affording this kind of increase we are suggesting? Where money is gonna be coming from?
Yep.
So the 2.69 is one of many formulas. So the 2.69 is an additional formula increase, not only for current students, but then for additional students as well. So we will see the growth in enrollment, which will help alleviate some of these costs. And also our local property taxes is another chunk of our revenue that needs to be considered. So again, the 2.69 is just one of many formulas that produce revenue for us. But with the growth in enrollment, we do expect that to be a key player in our contract settlements, not only this one, but also going forward for the next couple of years as well.
I might just add too, and Trevor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it all comes from the general fund for all of our employee groups. So any of the salaries and benefits that we've indicated and been speaking about in our budgets are all coming from the general fund. Is that accurate to say?
Yes, we do have some employees that are paid through the Food Service Fund, Fund 2, as well as Community Service Fund, Fund 4. So not all of this would be a general fund impact.
And thank you for clarification, which brought to me, yes, we are planning, according to projections, to have 285 more students, and obviously money comes with that. But we ended up with budget cuts, obviously 1 year when things did not came to fruition. What is the contingency plan if revenues do not meet projections?
Once a budget is established and once a school year starts, we're not going to lie, there's not a lot of opportunities to make budget cuts once those things start. So that is why we are really fortunate and comfortable where we are with our fund balance. So there are times where that might have to be used if for example, we underestimate what our enrollment projections are. Those are things that have happened before. We have also underestimated what enrollment growth would be too. So we continue to monitor enrollment growth. Our enrollment our enrollment applications every day. We are really, really confident with where we are with the 13,349. We started with that number, what was it, about February? And we continue to monitor that daily, and it has not wavered. We're really comfortable with what that is. So do we know for sure until school opens in September? No, we are not. So that is certainly one of those things as a contingency plan that we would rely on fund balance for if needed.
And I would suggest also that what we're doing for that for next year is the same process we've used every other year. I mean, it's always a little bit of a guesstimate, and we're projecting. And overall, since the fall of 2008, we've grown an average of about 200 students per year. So we have a pretty good trend line to give us some confidence to do our budget planning based on the enrollment numbers on what we're seeing currently.
Yeah, and there also are other opportunities as the year goes along. If we decide to cut off the purchase of supplies and materials, if we postpone some capital improvements, those kind of things. So there are other things you can do, but again, that gets a little bit difficult once school begins and we see the students in our classrooms. But there certainly are things that we can do to manage expenditures as the year goes along. But there are also things like utilities that we don't have any control over. So you hope for a warm winter and those kind of things.
Are you done? Okay.
I have a follow-up question. So as you budget and as you plan, you look at conditions around you, and we did go through cost containment. That's something that happened over the course of 3 years. My question is, as you were planning for this budget and you're thinking about raises, I mean, I think part of the reason that increases were lower in past years is because of the conditions that we were under. As a community, as a society, there was, that big C word that nobody wants to hear anymore. So can you tell me about how, as you're planning, when conditions change, how that's reflected in the budget?
Yeah, first and foremost, that what is being proposed tonight in both of these contracts, and I know Laura hasn't presented the second one yet, but what is being proposed is included in the 26-27 preliminary budget. And we do know that there are usually retirements and resignations that occur within those contracts too that change all of those proposals. It's a constant movement. We also know that we are carrying some unfilled positions that history has shown we don't sometimes fill those positions too. So there are those kind of things within there. But I think what's really interesting is when you look at, I don't want to jump ahead and do the second one, but both of these groups that are coming forth tonight, if you look at the percentage of the total salaries and benefits that they have within our budget is not changing from our 25-26 revised budget to our 26-27 budget. They're the exact same percentage of total salaries and benefits for these two groups.
I'm glad to hear that looks like there is a plan, but I'm still concerned seeing how much money only we receive and how much we are proposing, because why I had been questioning during some committee meetings, and as a parent, I've seen during budget cuts where programs had been cut. Like, for example, with unaffiliated, we had, in the past, it was 1.5% increase, and then second year was 2.25 increase. But as if right now we are offering 3.4%. And also unaffiliated has steps and levels. It's not like we're not valuing them at all. And again, in my case, it's not even about being against. It's about, at the end of the day, we cut programs for students. And school, we are big about 3 A's: academics, athletics, and art. Art is the one being cut, and it did not come back. And I don't hear that much of a talk about reestablishing these programs, which at the end of the day will affect the students because some students we discovered not as good in academics, but they will thrive in art, for example. Therefore, I don't feel comfortable with these numbers.
There are no other questions or comments. I'm going to read the motion again. Is to approve the 2026-27 unaffiliated salaries and handbook changes as recommended. This is again a roll call vote.
Colleagues, Valentina Ayers,
No.
Dan Ginestra votes yes. Alicia Little,
Yes.
Paris Bendy,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor,
Yes.
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes, the motion carries. Thanks again, Dan. Okay, next, Laura will seek approval of the Wayzata Principals Association contract. Laura.
Great, thank you. So a summary of language changes for the Wayzata Principals Association 2026-2028 contract was shared with each board member this week. The WPA membership voted unanimously to approve this tentative agreement. Included in the summary for the school board is information about increases to the salary schedule and district contribution to health insurance, which are typically the two largest costs associated with any contract settlement. So for the salary schedule, 3% increase in year one applied to step 5 of the salary schedule, and then with the removal of step 1 and replaced with the current values for step 2. So the new step 2 through 4 values represent an evenly distributed scale between the new step 1 and the new step 5. This change is due to our step 1 principal salary falling significantly below our comparable districts. This compression will allow the district to utilize more steps of the salary schedule when making competitive offers to new principal candidates, which lowers costs over time. And due to over 90% of current WPA members occupying step 5, the total package cost of the salary compression in steps 1 through 4 is relatively low. And then 2.9% increase was applied to all steps in year 2. The health insurance, the district contribution of 12.75 in year 1 and 5% in year 2. And just for reference, the 12.75% increase is our known premium for 26-27, and then an average premium increase of approximately 6% in the last 25 years. So the total package cost is 4.56 in year 1 and 3.45 in year 2, with 8.01 total package for both years. The MSBA cost is 6.37%. And then for reference, 2024-2026 settlement was 7.99 2-year cost in the MSBA. The recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Laura. So the recommended action is to approve the contract with the Wayzata Principals Association for the period of July 1, 2026 through June 20th, 2028, as agreed upon by the bargaining teams and ratified by the WPA membership. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes. Yes. Again, I don't want to make it's not that I pulled out just unaffiliated. It's the same principle comes here too, that our principals also have levels and steps, and my understanding also our principals on a higher end right now, since many of them are experienced. I would like to urge board members to have a picture of a student in a classroom who is sitting in a very overcrowded classroom, and the teacher has to deal with rising special ed students, rising behavioral issues, And also, on top of that, there are more students being added because of a cost containment. Right now, we are not, but we're keeping our teachers in the same position. These are the ones who are delivering the work. They need some help. They need some help with adding maybe at least paras. I understand there are constraints with the buildings right now, but at least if we would have paras and adults helping, that is what will change the life of a student. Therefore, I don't feel comfortable with these numbers.
Yeah, Paras. So I don't think we are saying we are reducing teachers or not increasing teachers or paras because of these increments. And again, just looking at the numbers, for school year 26-27 for general fund, we are looking at about 2.5 million surplus, which is on top of our current cash balance, if you will. Even if we look at for this as well as previous bucket, let's just assume 3%, right? Not the number that is given. The actual delta is not significant enough, in my opinion. So even if I look at just the preliminary cash balance, 2.5 million, we are talking about 20% or less. So again, we're not reducing teachers, we're not reducing paras. We still have an opportunity to add if we need to, which will get reflected in the final budget. So considering all of that, I think this is fair, in my opinion. I don't see any issues or any significant impact to cash balance. In fact, our cash balance is much stronger. And I think just looking around the table and all of you, if there is a need for us to add more teachers or more paras, I think we will look at it. I don't think anybody is saying, no, we won't increase the staff because we are increasing, salaries, if you will, for these two affiliated groups or non-affiliated. Principals, sorry. Is that fair? Yeah, Sheila.
I would just like to add to what Paras said, that this approval of this contract is not mutually exclusive with lowering class sizes. And in fact, we've heard from, human resources in the past about class sizes and that we're keeping the lower class sizes that we had in place. When the kindergarteners didn't materialize, we still had a certain number of teachers. We didn't, reduce that. And so, this is all part of the conversation going forward of a lot of things that we talk about in teaching and learning and human resources. And this is like one piece, again, that is not mutually exclusive from doing the other things that, we would like to do for the district.
I also want to add, I will say my thank yous now because I think it's pertinent to this conversation at this point. I want to thank the negotiating team. They came in with an incredible amount of professionalism and integrity to the conversation. And I think I have personally benefited a great deal from being a part of the negotiating team. Whether it's for teachers, whether it's for Wayzata kids, whether it's for principals over my past years, and I encourage every single one of my board colleagues to do the same. An incredible amount about the professionals that are in our buildings and how they run such fantastic buildings. Like our kids are safe and healthy and are learning and achieving. Our principals would be the first to say what our kids needed. And so I just want to call that out in that they come to the table with a very keen eye on student needs. And I just think that's important to say.
When we are going to be In that case, I was actually involved with cafe negotiation. In that case, I feel like, if anything, for them, the percentage was not that high. And when we're talking about equity, teachers' contract was 3.75 first year. Second year was 3%. They're the ones with boots on the ground. And I'm not trying to be, I'm talking about where the money is going to be coming from, other than money has to come from somewhere. And as for class sizes, we joined this district, and the teacher told me that for 4th and 5th grade, the class size was 25 students. At that time, she had 27. She said, these are 2 students way too many, and it was before COVID, before behavioral issues, before special ed students being on the rise, and ELL students being on the rise. We are asking our teachers to do so much more, almost like being parents and all, but at the same time, money has to come from somewhere. That's the whole reason. When I'm looking at what kind of money is going to be coming and what kind of money we're offering, then in that case, there is a big discrepancy also in between which groups were offering what. Our teachers are the ones who are delivering this work. They are the ones with boots on the ground. And as I stated, our art programs are not being reinstated. We still keep running them the same way. This one, at the end of the day, I would like to remind our board that this is about students. This is about what, as I said, picture of a student who is sitting in overcrowded class, came ready to learn, but instead of that has to deal with some constant noises, some behavioral issues and all. That's our big picture supposed to be. I'm not against, I just want to, to point it out, wherever money is coming from. It is coming from somewhere else, and sorry.
Parash, did you want to say something? Okay. Yeah, please.
I just wanted to offer a couple of insights here. There's been some mention of steps and lanes for principals and for unaffiliated staff. I think all of our bargaining groups have some schedules that, or probably all schedules that have those steps and lanes. So there are those incremental increases. Like the superintendent might be the only one that doesn't have the steps and lanes, but there are probably some positions maybe in community ed that may not either. Over the last couple of years, I just want to mention too that, and I shared a document with the board that demonstrated that over the last, from 3 years ago, we have decreased the average class size at the elementary level by 2 students. So that has gone down. And there's always going to be anomalies. In my 3 years or so of doing staffing within a school district or being closely involved with staffing, there are always going to be some grade levels in some buildings that are going to be above that class size average target. In the document that I shared with the board, I think over the 5-year period, there were only 3 grade levels over that 5-year period that I think were over the staffing target. If you remember that shading that I showed, the orange reddish color, I think, were the 3 areas. The others were either equal to or lower than the average class sizes. So even though we have increased those targets, but I think it's important just to get into the messaging here as well that we have lowered that by 2. We've also added significantly to our special education staffing and support, both with teachers and paraprofessionals and leadership within special education as well to be responsive. And I just want to acknowledge, and I haven't heard anybody suggest differently than this, that principals and district administrators really have a tremendous impact on student learning. a lot of times behind the scenes, and it isn't always evident and may not look like boots on the ground or like there's active engagement with it. But research shows that, the most impactful individual on a student or a group of students is the classroom teacher, which makes sense because they spend a lot of time, the most time with their students. Principals are a close number two, and if you look at a cumulative perspective, because of the work they do in a building that might have 600 to 4,000 students in it, they have a huge impact on student learning, maybe not with each individual student, but multiplied over all those students. So I just want to throw into the narrative as well that, I really appreciate the work that our principals and district administrators do, and a lot of it really goes unnoticed and on off hours and all hours and 12 months out of the year. So I appreciate the work that they do, and I just wanted to share some additional insights to go along with those that we've heard today.
Okay, if there are no other questions.
I think. Oh, yeah. And again, the class sizes is definitely critical. I mean, nobody's denying that. The whole point is, again, in my mind, those are two separate issues. If there is a challenge with class size, we have to tackle it, whether it is extra teachers, paras, that has to happen. All other contracts and bargaining group was the term I was looking for. So all bargaining groups, I think they have been negotiated really in good faith. All the increments they look pretty good in terms of where we are with inflation and all of it. So again, and I was just pulling numbers. As of April, our unassigned fund balance is close to 12%. That is like money in the bank, if you will. Plus, when I look at how our next year is looking like, again, it is in surplus. So when you talk about 1%, 2% difference in all of these discussions, that is not a significant money which would cause any issues or concerns from budgetary standpoint. On the other hand, all of these positions are very critical. These are leadership roles. And I think we have to be at or above that industry standard to attract and retain talent, because that is going to be very critical. These leadership positions, we need the right individual in those roles, and we have to attract and retain talent. So again, absolutely critical that we have to have right class size, but just looking where we are financially today, I think we can handle both of those. I don't think it has to be one or other, in my opinion.
I totally agree that all these professions are playing a role. Nobody is arguing. My argument is wherever money comes from. That's my major thing. When we're talking about class sizes, again, I'm quoting a teacher. It used to be 2017, 2018. She told me for the 4th and 5th grade, it is 25. When we're changing what kind of size we can have, in from your document, it states 30, these are plus 5 students. We asked our teachers to do, at least I'm talking about for 4th and 5th graders, to take 5 more students. I have to trust the teacher who had been who had quite a bit of years experience, and my belief is she's still working, and I loved her. So I would like that teachers, instead of getting bigger numbers, because all of a sudden we're reporting the class size of 30 students is a new normal. It's not that it's changed, the goalpost changed. That's how we can report, but although many of us do know that this class size is way too many for our teachers to handle. And I heard about achieving, I mean, that's one of the things for the governance role. We need to discuss how our students actually achieving. Are we even back to the point of where we used to be in 2019? No, we're not. So there is something need to be done so that students' achievement is changing. And again, it is not that I'm against unaffiliated or I'm against the principals. It is, at the end of the day, where the money is coming from.
All right, if there are no other questions or comments, I'll read the action. Recommended action again is to approve the contract with the Wayzata Principals Association for the period of July 1, 2026 through June 20, 2028, as agreed upon by the bargaining teams and ratified by the WPA membership. Again, roll call vote.
Colleagues, Paris Bendy,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor,
Yes.
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers,
No.
Dan Ginestra. Dan Ginestra votes yes. Alicia Little,
Yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you again, Dan. And then the final item on the HR recommendations is the request for approval of the 2027 and 2028 school calendars. Dr. Anderson will present this.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about everybody's favorite topic of calendar creation. Having done this in a previous life in another district, I know of the challenge that comes with it. And there's the reason it's a big challenge is there are multiple right answers. And I think that's evidenced in no matter how many versions of a calendar that you put out there, there'll be almost equal slices of the pie as to who votes for which. If you have 3, about 1/3 will vote for each one. If you have 4, there'll be 25% that votes for each one, et cetera. So it's always a challenge and a complicating factor because everybody takes a look at different variables in regard to what it is that they would like to have with the committee or with the calendar for the future. So you'll note that this is 1 full year out. This is for the 2027-28 calendar year. We always try to get the year approved at least a year in advance, typically in the summer prior to the start of the next school year. We haven't always accomplished that. Periodically, we brought it back to make some amendments or modifications based on that. Every year is different. The state of Minnesota has a law that you can't start school prior to Labor Day. They made an exception for this particular year because it's so deep into September, I think, this year, and maybe even the one coming up, that there was some flexibility afforded to districts to be able to start prior to Labor Day if they so chose to do so. So to get back on script here with the narrative, the calendar recommendation for 27-28 is included. The attached memo includes a summary of the process utilized to establish the calendar, including the utilization of the district calendar committee. And while the 4 calendar versions are included in the packet for context, the version that's being recommended is what we've called revised option number 1. Some of the highlights included are listed here: 184 teacher contract days, 170 student contact days, K-5, with 2 elementary planning days, 172 student days for grades 6 through 11. School will start Monday, August 30th. That falls into what I had shared with you before about the fact that Labor Day is later and the legislature provided the opportunity to do this without special provision. 2 additional flex learning days consistent with previous calendars for PD and asynchronous student learning from home. 11 district holidays. One thing that's somewhat unique with this is a full 2-week winter break, which I think I've been an advocate for the entire time that I've been here. Once again, referencing back to a former district I worked in, there was always a full 2-week. I think it's a really great halftime break for those families that travel nationally or even within the state or internationally in many cases, to have that extended time frame with fewer students, hopefully absent, for those families who might take those full 2 weeks anyway. So there's probably an advantage in there for less absenteeism and less makeup work being planned for by teachers. particularly if you can get a full 2 weeks and 3 weekends. That's a really nice extended period of time to accommodate that travel. Last day of school is for early ed, K-11 and transition is June 6, 2028. And the last day of work for teachers would be the day following, which has been our tradition. And seniors' days are oftentimes are typically fewer than for K-11. And the semester balances are always looked at too. Teachers, particularly at the secondary level, always like to try to balance it out by quarter. So there's a comparable number of days for teachers that teach quarter classes, particularly at the high school, but to some degree at the middle school as well. So the recommended action is before you. I'd like to thank Dave Lutz, who's not here today to present this to you, but he was the point person and convened the committee and probably worked with other team members to collect the input and feedback. And I might add some wording here to suggest that what's being presented to you tonight collectively is what was considered to be the best of the imperfect options.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. So the recommended action is to approve the revised option number 1, proposed 2027-28 school calendar. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just want to highlight the work of the committee. I was not a part of it, but I know that this is one of the most difficult agreements to come to in the district. Dr. Anderson, I'm sorry you won't have a 2-week break, but you'll have a longer break at this point. So I'm sorry you got it done in your 18 years. It'll be a good thing for us to try out, see how families feel about it. I'm also a proponent of a full 2-week break. I think it's healthy. I think it gives us 3 weekends. And I also want to acknowledge that for some students and some families, 2 weeks is a long time. And I think that there are other conversations that we can have with our community partners about how to help families through that. And so I would encourage us to keep that on the front of our minds as we move forward. But I just wanted to say that I'm glad to see the committee working so hard on this.
Yes, sir.
2 years ago, I asked the same questions I'm going to be asking today. It's going to be about at-home learning, which is right now changed into flex days. It doesn't matter how you call it. It is students. We're keeping students at home while we're counting them as a contact day. My first question would be, what evidence do we have that students actually complete assignments on flex days?
There we go. Thanks, Director Valentina. I don't know if you were able to get a copy of the question and answers that we submitted to you, which answered that question. The high school treats this as part of their regular scope and sequence of their curriculum. So the same both formative and summative assessments they use at any time with any of their curriculum work would still apply to the at-home learning days that they do. They primarily use our Canvas pages for that work. And then at the elementary level, we really leave that to the teachers or more likely the grade level teams. That work is created with teaching and learning for grade levels, also part of the scope and sequence of our work. And then in collaborations with teachers, and it's generally extension opportunities that teachers don't feel like we have the opportunity to get to in the regular classroom and provide a lot more hands-on opportunities. As far as assessment of that work goes, again, like most assessments, that is at the classroom teacher level.
I might just add too, if I may, thanks Dana for sharing those insights. A lot of school districts, and this is primarily to help create opportunities for professional development. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, we went to this model during cost containment, and there's, just like many things in education, there's no perfect way to accomplish this, but as we heard from our peer coaches tonight, and I've heard you, Director Ayers, tonight say that our most important investment is our teachers, and we know they make the greatest impact, so we need highly trained teachers, and so we have to etch out that time somehow. There's never enough of that, and so we went to this model about 4 or 5 years ago during cost containment because we cannot secure substitute teachers easily. And so our teachers are also out of the classroom during those times. So rather than not being able to do that, we have put into place these 2 flex learning days. I believe we were at 3 maybe in the beginning, but we have gone to 2 flex learning days as a way to pull all of our teachers together so we can do entire grade levels together and across the entire district. So when you heard the peer coaches tonight talking about REDAC training, talking about CEL training. We will have our new Bridges math curriculum, for example, in the elementary when we need all of our 5th grade teachers, all of our 3rd grade teachers together. These 2 days allow us to be able to do that as a district with full district support. So we believe that, again, it's an imperfect world in an imperfect way, but the best that we can do at this time, short of buying more contract days from our teachers, which is always something the board can look into.
I would also suggest that there's a lot of districts that do late starts or early dismissals, maybe 8 times a year in order to accommodate what we do with the 2 full days. So again, to use a term I like to use, the best of the imperfect options, then you're disrupting 8 school days, you're shortening class periods at the secondary level if you implement it there, and or you go to modified schedules that has a serious impact on transportation and being able to accommodate the bus routes. So it's a little bit like the calendar, no matter what model you choose. And I've been around as a principal at a lot of levels when all these models have been implemented. And I know that there are always challenges with it. There are also contractual obligations for equalizing or approximating similar total preparation time during the course of the school year as well. So there are a lot of variables that come into play for this. And this particular model, although I know that it has its limitations, we continuously monitor it and we'll keep looking for ways to improve and do it better if we can and enhance or strengthen the at-home, the learning that occurs on the flex days and keep finding better ways to do it. I think I can speak on behalf of teaching and learning that would be the case. I know that that's what they always do. So thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just also wanted to highlight, as part of our conversations in HR committee, we do talk about those days and the contact days. And I know that in the coming year, there is going to be a survey that's sent out to parents to also gauge how families are feeling about it. But in the absence of having that information, I think we need to move forward with our current model until we can figure out exactly what would work for families, because I just feel like if we were to shift it now without having the information, it would be more of a disruption than is necessary. Families have gotten used to it. They may not all be happy about it. It may not work great for all of us, but I do think we need to take some time to study it and understand it before we make a shift.
When 2 years ago, when I asked that question, the answer was it's about cost containment, and teachers have to have professional development days, which right now we're not in cost containment. This actually comes to that mind where money goes. It looks like at the end of the day, we ask for $500 million from our constituents. And we, on top of that, adding this burden on them because arguably these 2 or even 3 days, I need to remind that at the beginning, the first day of school is not happening for 7th, 8th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And I'm questioning what kind of learning is happening on the first day when they did not even meet their teachers. That's what comes to my mind. As for professional development, I asked teachers, and I learned that in the past, they still had professional development, but it was done such a way that teachers would be gathered, substitute teach, it would be, it was done in waves. So it's not like the whole building will have a professional development. It was let's say, third grade teachers will be gathering. And then during that time, substitute teachers will be coming. So both sides are being covered. Teachers' needs are being covered, and students are at school and learning, especially after COVID. And then on top of that, families are not being asked. And arguably, working families have to carry that burden even more, because some families who can work from home, they can keep an eye on their kids. We are doing it to our students. That's another thing comes to my mind about best practices. I keep hearing that we are comparing with our district. Well, our district, I actually asked, other districts are moving away from flex days because they discovered it doesn't do anything good to the students. That's where I would like to encourage us also to look at our district practices. Our districts are moving away from flex days. We are not in cost containment. This is where I would be asking, this is where we are removing money and making our families to work around again. They're already taking care of a burden of $500 million in additional taxes. Then we have to take care of and another thing, learning is not happening. As a parent with elementary student, we receive a packet which states on top, you don't need to return this packet. So what are we talking about? They are stating, you don't need to return this packet. Learning is not happening on that day. Then let's call it what it is. It is not learning, then it is vacation.
Mr. Chair, if I may. I would like to respectfully suggest that we're perhaps veering a little bit away from the intended purpose of the approval ask in front of us. And if there are concerns about how learning is being fostered over a specific individual's child, that perhaps those are taken up at the building level between the individuals concerned. Examining this proposal in front of us, I'm satisfied with the work of our different teams, and I think that this underscores a little bit of a difference this year, Labor Day coming at a different time, and I think we'll tackle the moment as it arrives. And if there are no other further statements to make, Mr. Chair, I call the question.
You have a comment?
I did have a comment. I know that the flex days have been a consistent, thing brought up by many people, many board members. In the HR committee, we talk about moving forward and considerations for next year. We all received the same information from Executive Director of Human Resources, Dave Lutz. So we all know that this stuff is going to be discussed for next year's calendar. We have a new superintendent coming on board. We have, changing something like flex days is going to take a lot of work behind the scenes and a lot of decisions being made and a lot of the ripple effects that happen, like with, with the teaching, with the coaching and the professional development, like all of that needs to be taken care of. So it can't just be done right away. I'm glad that our conversation has reached the point where we're talking about it in human resources, again, as a consideration for the next calendar. So I would just say that, we hear all of the concerns and the discussion around it, and we can't just make a change at the board table. We need to work with the administration to make sure this is done intentionally and, again, in a way that takes care of all the ripple effects that will happen when flex days, should we end up taking them away, what do we do then instead? So I'm in support of this calendar, and I look forward to the future conversations.
Let me ask a question first of Chase. Is this required to be approved today, or this is for the 27-28 year, right? So next year is done. We don't have a calendar yet for 27 and 2028. Is this required to be approved today?
Well, it's not
I'll tell you why
required.
I'm asking that.
Okay.
In a second, once you tell me.
I would recommend the board take action on it tonight because a lot of work's been done. I don't know what else is going to get infused into it to come up with a different plan. I think Valentina makes valid points. All those are things that we've had conversations about. What you're describing or what she was describing is what we moved away from because it wasn't working. Because we would pull a lot of teachers out of classrooms during the day. The students, when subs were available, then would have a teacher that wasn't their teacher that shows up every day. So if we pull a teacher out for 3 days of professional development, the kids have a substitute for 3 days. And that was a challenge in and of itself. And then the pool of substitutes got so small. And we were having a lot of classrooms that were uncovered and teachers needing to fill in the gaps during the day. And they were getting frustrated with being overloaded and always being called into action to help out when they needed their prep time and other opportunities. So, you know, I get all of the inputs and they have all been heard. And, you know, this runs in fluctuations where you do this and because of the concerns, you move back to where you were before. And so my recommendation is to support the recommendation to move forward or to take action on it. You can do it, you can vote how you want, but I think the work has been done for now and we can always continue looking at options for the future.
So the reason I asked you if this has to be approved today is because of my concern about the parents and the staff not being taken into consideration, not being surveyed, right? Am I correct?
The staff were surveyed, I believe. We surveyed parents a couple years ago. I don't think the feedback today would be a lot different from what we just
and
recent data.
I'm concerned about that specifically not because of the flex learning days. Maybe she makes a valid point, but I'm concerned about the movement from after Labor Day to before Labor Day on August 30th. There are parents who want to enjoy that weekend going on vacation somewhere, right? So they are affected. 2 weeks is a great number of days to have. I used to enjoy them, or I used to want them when my kids were in school because but not all parents want 2 weeks. What are they going to do if they're not traveling anywhere? They are working, right? And they have to be home. So that is my concern. So I think in the future, as soon as possible, we should take into account parents' feedback as well. Okay, and that I think Director Lutz has said that is being considered for the future.
Yeah, it's been done before and it can be done again.
Again, right? And so that's why I asked you if there is a deadline for this to be approved today, or can that be done between now and when this can be approved?
I wouldn't recommend it for this calendar. If the board wants to encourage your incoming superintendent to solicit annual feedback, I don't think it'll vary significantly from year to year, other than when Labor Day varies from year to year. And there's only so much creativity you can thread into a calendar with all the guardrails around it. So it's really complicated and really challenging. And I do think, I haven't looked at it recently, but there was a change we made either to the policy or the regulations for calendar development that we will try to approve the calendar, I think, in July, a year and a half in advance of the school year.
The
Is that correct?
correct. Yes. The direct language is from policy 607, the school calendar, and it does say that it will be complete 14 months prior to the first day of school.
So we're right on with the July 1st.
Correct.
Right? It's about 14 months in advance. And that was in direct response to parent feedback about, can we please know the calendar earlier because we want to get our vacations booked or our travel plans in place. So that was implemented as a result of parent feedback, which I think over the years we have collected.
At that time, the 2-week vacation was not there. The August 30th start date was not there, right? So these parents didn't know that this was coming. Nobody.
The 2-week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon actually in school districts. I found it uncommon, I guess, when I moved from one district to the other. And I think a whole nother subgroup of individuals that it has a deep impact on are for those 12-month employees that don't have the extended opportunities over the summer months to take those kind of breaks. I think, that it really is a more conducive calendar to a large percentage of our staff that do work the full 12 months.
Sorry, Dan, you called
If-
for action, right? So I'm going to, sorry, we went more than
Director Sahoni, if I can add, as working with Dave on the calendar, we have committed to doing another parent survey for so it'll be the 28-29
Yeah, right.
calendar. So we are going to do that.
Yep.
And we did do one 2 years ago with many of these actions in it. We also looked at student attendance data and staff attendance data at this one. And we do find when we do those short weeks before winter break, our attendance of both staff and students is drastically impacted, which is part of the reason we went to that 2-week window here, is that really we felt like many of our students and our staff were voting with their feet and aren't seeing those attendance drops. So our hope is, and a way to try that with the 2-week break this year, is to see if our attendance of both staff and students improves not only right before winter break, but we get some winter fatigue going on as well. And so we're hoping we also see improvement in attendance. So it's an opportunity for us to test that out, come back with more time, survey our parents as well, so that we can bring that to the board table the next
I
time.
totally agree. But in my mind, in my opinion, asking the parents before we even decide about these things is a better way to do it. Just my opinion.
We would agree. There just wasn't time this year to really get into a high quality survey. So I believe what Dave Lutz sent you that is our full intention in the next upcoming, but with the timeline, we needed to move forward with this one.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
I think
I just
last
looked up
comment. Let's Dan has
per-day calendar for next 10 years. It's this year, 2026 and 2027, when we have that gap. For next 5 years, we'll be right back to where we were before. So it's
right.
it's
But the
non-issue.
2 weeks is what I'm mostly concerned about. Also, the 2 weeks vacation or break during the winter.
Yeah. So that's good part.
What's that?
That's good. That there is 2
Good
weeks.
for you, but it may not be good for other parents. So we can't.
I think we are showing why
Yeah.
this is such a complicated thing.
2 weeks doesn't work for other parents.
And
It
just
doesn't.
to,
So we want to see. We went by a vote, right? For the selection of the calendar, we went by a plurality vote, 41%, 33%. So why not this one as well? That's just my argument. That's it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as someone who is newer and on the HR committee and not on the calendar committee specifically, but able to get a lot more info, everything we are all saying is exactly what has been coming up in the conversations. And when you look at the staff summary that all staff were able to feedback, it's not like this calendar won by a long shot. Everyone has very different feelings. And I think I felt better through some of the conversations we were having in the HR committee about when you start digging into things that I maybe hadn't thought about, like how many days per quarter align and how many days we get with our seniors with one calendar versus another. Some of the calendars would have shortened how many contacts days. We would have been closer to the minimum rather than maybe having a few extra. So there's just so many different factors going in. And I see and have also brought up, can we talk to parents? Because yes, full disclosure, I was the one that said 2 weeks for Christmas is a lot for my family, but I can also see that it's a great thing for other people. And I think it's not, I think there's been a lot of thought in here, and I do appreciate that our families would like to know.
All I can say is that what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. So it's just because some of us feel like we are 2 weeks is good, that does not mean. And we also have to, even if it's a minority, we have to also give consideration to the minority, because we just don't cater to the majority all the time, right? So that's, again, I'm glad that that survey is going to be done in the future. And right now, I'm going to say yes to the calendar, but with a little heavy heart. So let's move on. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to read the recommendation again to approve the revised option number 1, proposed 2027-28 school calendar. This is a roll call vote.
Excellent. Colleagues, I will begin with myself again. Dan Ginestra votes yes. Alicia Little?
Yes.
Paris Spendy?
Yes.
Sheila Pryor?
Yes.
Heidi Cater?
Yes.
Valentina Ayers?
No.
Millen Sahoni?
Yes. Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you, Dan. Okay, we have come to the final item of this evening, which is a resolution seeking approval of the board handbook updates. So as of at the January 12, 2026 board meeting, the school board reviewed its newly adopted WPS School Board Handbook on the recommendation of the Superintendent Evaluation and School Board Development Committee, consisting of Heidi, Valentina, and myself. The handbook was approved for implementation at that time. The handbook will undergo a biannual review by the board. As part of this review, the Superintendent Evaluation and School Board Development Committee is recommending updates to the handbook. The red-lined copy of the handbook is attached for review. Some updates that were recommended will be brought to a work session after a request is made by sending an email to the chair and superintendent requesting to add handbook discussion as a topic for an upcoming work session. This is specified on page 4, Heidi? 4? 4 of the handbook. Thank you. So the recommended action is to approve the WPS School Board Handbook updates as presented. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion?
I have a question about bringing recommended changes to a work session. Would then there be a vote at a regular meeting whether to accept those changes then? Okay, wanted to clarify.
And the reason for that, if I may, so there were some questions that were brought up at the committee meeting, and those we thought were not appropriate to recommend unless we had the board consensus or board consideration or board feedback, and that's the reason. So they are not as simple as the other ones that were implemented. And so if you have a recommendation or Dan has a recommendation, anybody has a recommendation, you just email me that this is my recommendation for an update and copy Chase on it, obviously, and then, or whoever the superintendent is, and then we will bring it up at a convenient work session, discuss it, and then take it up for a vote at the December, next time it will be December, when we will take it up for a vote again. Any other questions?
We'll bring it, just a clarification, we'll likely bring it to the organizational meeting in December to be voted on in January, correct?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. But if it is urgent, if somebody wants it done quickly, immediately, we can take it up at a work
Well, we can. I doubt there will be anything in
that'll
that.
be fine.
I think we're in a pretty good place.
Yeah. All right, if there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to read the recommended action again. Is to approve the WPS School Board Handbook updates as presented. This is going to be a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Thank you. There are no board reports this evening. So before we adjourn, I'd like to make I'd like to take a couple of minutes to say something. Dr. Anderson, our superintendent, is retiring after 18 years of solid service. Thank you for that. I'm going to just make a small statement, and then I'll open it up to the board, to the table, board table, for other board members to say anything if they would like. So Chase, as we come to the end of your final board meeting, I want to take a moment to recognize your 18 years of service to this district. 18 years in public education reflects a steady commitment to students, families, and staff through many seasons of change and growth. Over that time, you have helped guide the district through a wide range of decisions, some routine, some complex, that come with leading a large school system. There have been areas where the district has moved forward during your tenure, and also challenges that are part of meeting the evolving needs of our schools and community. Through it all, the work of keeping the district functioning every day for students is meaningful and significant. I also want to acknowledge your long relationship with the board. We have had many conversations over the years, sometimes aligned, sometimes in disagreement, but always with the shared goal of doing what we believed was best for the students. On behalf of the board, thank you for your 18 years of service. We wish you and your family all the best in the next chapter ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Opening up to anybody that wants to speak.
Yes, I would just like to say, Dr. Anderson, it has been a pleasure to work with you. Thank you so much for your dedication to the school district, and I wish you well on your well-deserved retirement.
Well, thank you so much, Superintendent Anderson. It's been very special knowing you for a little while now, seeing you in buildings when I was a student. starting as a little first grader at Kimberly Lane Elementary, and then all the way up through now. It's just been really special. And I was actually reflecting for a moment on the first time I met you, and it was on the day of the presidential primary in 2020. I was an election judge. You came in to vote, and I saw right there your commitment to student engagement and public advocacy and how much it meant to you, just people being out there and advocating for their communities. So I wish you well on a long and lengthy retirement. You've definitely earned it, and I don't think there are a lot of folks around there who can say they now have 61 years of a first day of school. That's a very, very special achievement. So congratulations, and we're very excited for you.
I wrote a little something. As a new parent to the Wayzata School District, with my oldest child entering kindergarten in the fall of 2015, I was looking forward to meeting my child's teacher and connecting with parents of his classmates. Quicker than expected, I got to know the principal, parents if you know, you know, and so many amazing staff members at the school. But when I attended my first ever PTA meeting, held in the school library, sitting in tiny chairs in a circle with other nervous parents, I was surprised to learn that Dr. Chase Anderson, superintendent of the entire school district, was our guest speaker for the day. Having worked in multiple school districts over a decade myself, and rarely having direct contact with a superintendent, I was pleasantly surprised to see him not only attending a local PTA meeting, but clearly more comfortable in his kiddie chair than the rest of us, and presenting in such an open and engaging way. Chase, that was the first time that you and I met, and I'm pretty sure you were wearing the very same suit. Maybe not, but it didn't take long for me to see Chase all over our district, at the high school basketball games, the middle school plays, and the elementary fun runs. I continued to see him at PTA meetings and eventually joked that his welcome back presentations each fall deserved an admission fee and maybe even a bingo card containing key phrases like strategic roadmap, enrollment, and transportation. Hey, did you know that our buses drive 10,000 miles each day, which is equivalent to 2 trips around the Earth's equator each week? Okay, 2.5. You must not have updated your report. When I joined the district liaison committee back in 2020, I was able to regularly observe Chase in action. His ability to share district updates in a way that felt accessible. His willingness to engage with questions and feedback in a genuine manner. The fact that he consistently showed up for all the things, to the point that I started to wonder when he found time to sleep. Without me ever realizing it, Chase was inspiring me to get even more involved in the district, to share information with my friends and neighbors, and to feel comfortable asking him their tough questions in response. I can say with confidence that I would not be sitting in this seat today without the last decade of watching you lead. You've inspired so many individuals in our community, and I'm proud to say that I'm one of them.
So Chase, at your retirement celebration, I walked up to you and I froze. The only 2 words I could say was thank you and congrats. So I decided not to make that mistake again. So I've written my notes as well, which I usually don't do, but I'm going to do it today. So leading a district of this size and complexity is never easy. It requires vision, sound judgment, patience, and above all, the deep commitment to students. Throughout your tenure, you have helped guide Wayzata through tremendous growth, significant change, and many challenging moments. At the same time, you have kept educational excellence at the center. I also want to say this, not as a board member, but as a parent of 2 children who have benefited greatly from Wayzata School. Our family has been incredibly grateful for the education opportunities, support, and experience they have received here. That gratitude is deeply personal, and I know so many families across our community share the same feeling. What has always stood out about you is your steady leadership, your deep knowledge about the district, and your relationship you have built with staff, students, families, and broader community. The strength of Wayzata's public school today reflects your leadership and commitment over the years. On a personal note, I've truly appreciated this opportunity to work with you, learn with you, and see firsthand the care, thoughtfulness you bring to this role. As you leave this meaningful and lasting legacy behind, we wish you and your family very best as you begin your next chapter. Congratulations on your retirement, and thank you for everything that you have done for this school district. Thank you.
it'll be hard to follow you guys. In my case, how I met with you, it is, I know first one was very interesting to hear about during graduation party that you started working 18 years ago when these graduates just born. My first son is born 18 years ago. So I was, wow, actually I didn't think that way. Then 15 years ago, we moved from Minnetonka to also still, requirement was to have better schools. And my neighbor at the time was a teacher. I have another teacher right now, but she was giving me all the examples, how quickly I need to sign up for Peppermint Fence and all. So it is there. When I was coming from Peppermint Fence, leaving my child, we were walking, I think, maybe with her. She said to me, and I can say that she always knew all people at board table and also obviously you. She said, "This is our superintendent." I have to admit at the time I didn't even know what does it mean. Again, I'm from different culture, but at the same time for me it was interesting again from different but yeah, that kind of big figure and just walking without any bodyguard, so no driver, no personal driver kind of feeling, feeling. So it's at the same time, I can, from my neighbor, I learned, the way how she introduced you, this is our superintendent. Okay, so I memorized your face, obviously. And then through years, my husband got involved with Scouts and all. What is amazes me is I heard from him feedback, oh mine, his memory is so good. He remembers all the kids' names, and he is asking. So these kind of examples brought to me that you are very personable. You out and about in community, you are not just saying random hi and go. You remember the facts about families and about, and you are keeping it. And also, when I attended your retirement party, that was very obvious to me that anywhere you went through your life, you made such kind of friendships which are lasting. So that is, any person would like to do the same. So I can see and respect how much you are personable with people, how much you pay attention to details. And I would like to say thank you. Hopefully you will be able to find something as interesting as this journey had been for you, but at the same time, we'll have some relaxing days for you, well deserved. Thank you.
Well, shoot, I'm last. You all know I'm an emotional person by now. Chase, your leadership style is incredible. You're committed, you are kind, you make people feel special and seen, and you have an incredible capacity to listen and reflect. And I think that has made this district so successful. When I see you talking with students, you really see them and they feel special, and it makes them want to elevate. One of my favorite sayings that you say, there are many of them, but one of my favorite is, bloom where you're planted. And boy, did you do that. You planted here 18 years ago, and you have been under so much intense pressure for somebody to run an organization that is our size for so many years with such steady commitment is kind of unheard of. And so with the pressure, you turned into a diamond. And we're lucky to have you. And I'm so happy that you and Barb will continue to stay in our community. and will speak the praises of what you've already done. We stand on your shoulders. I'm going to miss you. Thank you. Yep. Thank you for all your service.
And you expect me to speak after all that? Well, thank you so much. I'm a little overwhelmed in the moment, but I can't thank you enough for your kind comments, but just overall your kindness and all of your predecessors who have served in this role for 18 years. I'm just so appreciative to their leadership and your leadership and for all that they did to help make this journey enjoyable, rewarding, fulfilling. Has been a tremendous opportunity for me, and it's been a wonderful place for us to call home and for our two kids to graduate from Wayzata High School. They both are productive tax-paying citizens now, which I oftentimes say, which I'm always very happy about. But it's just really been a wonderful community, and I've appreciated the wonderful team members, many of whom are here tonight, and all those who served in similar or the same positions over the years. I've had a lot of help. Nothing ever gets done in isolation, and anything I've enjoyed that resembles success, as you might have recalled, I said it, my comments at the retirement event, is only because I had a lot of people that were helping me, and that's really how we get things done and moving forward in the best possible ways. I've loved interacting with the students. I've loved interacting with the staff. I truly have really enjoyed my engagements at all my favorite hangouts, I guess, Hy-Vee and Target and Lowe's and Home Depot, and been known to look for students who may be selling popcorn, or I bought a lot of popcorn in my day, and many other things over the years. But it's always been a really fun way for me to engage. So it's been a place that's been easy to work hard within. I couldn't really have imagined, although I can still very clearly remember my very first board meeting. If somebody would have told me that Monday night that I'd have 459 more of these in my future, it's an approximation, but it's not too far off. I never would have dreamed that it would have gone for 18 years in the way that it has. So not only myself, but my wife and my two kids are incredibly thankful and appreciative. And they got, both of our kids got a great education here, and we loved being within the Wayzata community. And we made this place our home and plan to continue to stay here. And you'll probably see me at a sporting event or two, or a theater performance or concerts and other things, but it's just truly been the honor of my life to serve in this role. And I just want to say thank you to all of you and to the community and to my team, not only those here, but all those I've been fortunate to work with in the past. We have a good thing going here. I'm committed to helping Rob in every way that I can. We have a really good relationship established. You've hired an outstanding superintendent, and I know he's going to settle in and keep things rolling forward, and I'll do whatever I can to be helpful with that. So, as I always do, I've gone on too long, but thanks so much. I really appreciate your kind comments, and keep up the great work in serving our students in the community. Thank you.
Okay, this concludes the Wayzata Public Schools regular board meeting. There is a closed session of the board scheduled for next Monday, June 29th at 5 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. The Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Monday, June 22nd, 2026 is adjourned.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Let them know that I booked it for 9.